1936. Where he's like
1930.
straight up tweaking out. So like,
Really?
I guess I should explain this because it's kind of interesting. So World War I, right? Their methamphetamine came out in World War I as a like wonder drug. They go Wunda drug, right? Wunda drug, because they're like you can go longer without sleeping. You don't have to eat. And you're wired. So like, there's a classic war. Like, so you ever heard of the Ardennes Forest in World War I?
No.
Okay, so
keep explaining. We're gonna go deeper.
Yeah, we're gonna go deeper down this rabbit hole. Sorry, I just know a lot of this shit. But so the French are in the Ardennes Forest against the Germans, and it's really really tight quartered, just like fighting in a very dense forest. The Americans are showing up to the Ardennes Forest to reinforce the French. They get there and the French are retreating, and the Americans' classic line is, "Why? Like, what are you doing? We just got here. Like, don't retreat. We just got here." So they got back in. They pushed the Germans back. They push them back to where they originally were, and then they kind of just sit in the forest in their like regular line. And then, like after they just fought them, the Germans just rush them super hard, rush the Americans super hard, and they overwhelm them like overnight because they're like, well, how are they able to just day after day keep going? And what they did was they just gave all their troops methamphetamines, seriously, and just didn't stop. And they did the same thing in World War II, right? Yeah. They just gave all the Wehrmacht, which is the German military, and the SS. They just gave them meth. They didn't stop moving like tanks for days. Like they didn't sleep for days and didn't eat for days.
That's not healthy.
And so Hitler,
they didn't eat for days.
Yeah, Hitler was very concerned with their health, but
he wasn't. Yeah,
he really was such a humanitarian.
Yeah, they're just insane. But he was addicted to methamphetamines because he was in World War One, and like he's just there's so many videos of him like tweaking out, right? And like if you look at the decisions they're making
so
for
Dan,
like
gotta find one.
For like weapons and stuff, it's straight out of like doing meth, like. I want it to be bigger. Yeah. It has to be bigger. And it's got to have 15 guys in it. And I want to make a train car that can shoot around 20 miles away. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So drug-induced.
He was always on meth, which is awesome.
Good
not
for
really.
him.
Good for us, but not for them.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and that's a great way to start out this podcast. So,
welcome. Did you guys know we were rolling?
I
sweet.
I figured because I know Dan.
Yeah.
I now know the game. I now know that when you're not ready, Dan rolls.
Oh, we were just like getting into it. I just wanted to like.
I
wanted to keep it going.
We were in a French forest fighting. Well, they weren't really Nazis yet.
No, it's the Wehrmacht. Which still exists. The Wehrmacht is just the German military. So like it's weird. I don't know. I do a lot of research into World War II history. So
you wouldn't know that.
I'll explain this. The SS are like the party. Okay, that's like the Nazis. They are super hardcore fascists. They are terrible, terrible people. Like they do atrocities. That's the SS. The Wehrmacht is just the German military, and they're treated differently. So like a good example of this is like there's a very famous German tanker named Michael Whitman, right? And Michael Whitman is like mediocre at best as a tanker. They propagate the SS guys to make them look better than they really are, and then the Wehrmacht guys, they'll just like downplay them, right? And so there's a gentleman who is like extraordinarily good at tanks, right? Who racks up just tons of kills, never gets promoted because he's not an SS officer, right? And so they would always prioritize these just like they're really good at propaganda. Like they both sides are, right? And so that's the battle you're also fighting, seeing a lot with like Germany. That's why a lot of people associate like the Tiger tank with being like amazing.
Because I always associate the Tiger tank with amazing.
With amazing, right? No, like they always call wonder weapons. Germany made wonder weapons.
Wunderweapon.
Yeah, but the thing is like it's all bullshit. It's all a lie. It's like they're just trying to propagate how good they are, and you see that, and that's just a common theme throughout like history in general. It's like Napoleon, right? For instance, like Napoleon. We've talked about this before, but Napoleon was like propagated to look like he was smaller and weaker than he really is, right? But if you look into like what Napoleon was doing, he was like the first person to really come up with like advanced warfare strategies, and he was like extremely successful, but they tried every way to demean how good he was, right? And inversely, the French made him look better than he was too. So it's like we do the same thing in America, right?
Yeah.
So it's like your hype person, but
Speaking of fascists, you have a cart that says.
well, first of all, let's introduce our guest.
Yeah, but I just wanted to point out he has a cart that says, what does it say? This cart kills fascists.
This machine kills
This
fascists.
machine.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. That's actually that was what Woody Guthrie wrote on his guitar in tape.
Right.
And
Oh,
there's
that
this,
is
there's this
so-
famous photograph of him playing his guitar, and it says, "This machine kills fascists." I also have a pencil that says, "This machine kills fascists."
That's
I love
awesome.
it.
And then-
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not an original to me, but I truly believe in the message that machine
That's
can
really-
kill fascists.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, I
the
believe
message
that.
is like freedom of speech, basically, kind of.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. It's more like down.
Freedom of from the, like, I loved the term that you used, the publishing industrial complex.
Yeah, yeah. Those are the fascists we're talking about. Darci and I have been talking in the kitchen.
Well, we're going to back up and introduce
let's
you.
yeah,
we need
okay,
to
hi.
introduce our guest,
Greetings.
especially for people who are listening, not watching this. Welcome to the Nearly Literate podcast. It was a formerly Mother Boy podcast, and it kind of feels like Mother Boyish today to me, but Nearly Literate. And we have such a wonderful special guest, and I want to do kudos to Matt for bringing this guest in today. So you're the first person to be in our studio while we're on YouTube, but it's Austin Rowlader.
Rowlader.
Okay.
Procrastinating
want
canoeist.
Rowlader. Austin Rowlader. I want to put an N in there.
Yeah, so do most people do.
Yeah, it's but the way it's spelled. And he's an author, a really wonderful writer. Your book is just charming. It's really fun. It's probably not geared for mothers like me, but no, I read the first page and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it has
that's a doozy.
some penis talk on there. So
You're used to it.
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Come on,
yes,
you
I
have to
am.
be used to
Unfortunately,
it.
yes, I am. But I'm
The
like,
penis
oh,
is-
the boys are gonna love this one. You know,
I don't
'cause
think
it's-
the word penis
It does
is
not. You do not
the
use
word
it.
penis doesn't appear in the book a single time.
I
so
love
you're
it.
making
love
things
it.
up in your head.
I am.
Do we-
But Austin, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah,
It has been
thank
such a
you.
pleasure. He came in today from up north, the northern regions of the state.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because you have such an interesting process. We're going to talk a lot about, your journey as a writer, as we sometimes do. We're supposed to. But and also like just your journey and how you came to be like a independent printer, you're an independent actually publisher.
Yeah.
What is that called? Is it like a book boundist too? Like, what do you call that? Like,
I'm calling it publishing. I think
Publishing?
Yeah.
binder, but that gives the wrong impression. When you tell people that you're a book binder, they're assuming that you're making these like very beautiful tomes, with like the stitching and the nice leather work and everything. And I've called myself a book binder before, and then had those people be like,
oh, really?
So I'm just saying,
We're
I'm
going to
just
show.
a publisher.
I don't know if you can see the book, Ordinary Time.
Yeah, you can kind of see it.
And
Hand
it's
bound. I bound
hand-bound,
that copy,
handmade.
and every copy
so
that you
interesting.
find was bound by me. But before we start here, I have to talk about how I got here to begin with, because it's a
Yeah,
crazy
let's tell your.
story.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Okay, so I moonlight at this place. It's a meat and cider place in Bel Air, Michigan, called the Be Well, and I was going to have an author event there, and so I designed a flyer. And while I was working, I put 3 flyers out there that I designed because I wanted to get some free market research. Which of these 3 speaks
very
to
cool.
you, right? So I put a coffee mug above each one, and then I handed out raffle tickets. And whichever one you like, you put the raffle ticket into the corresponding coffee mug. And then at the end of the day, I, put them all in a hat and bought everybody a free drink, or their entire tab was free, I think. And then I gave them a free copy of my book if you pulled your name out of the hat. So at the end of the night, I pull a name out of the hat, and I'm like, okay, Matt Hanna is Matt Hanna, and it was Matt.
Matt Hanna in the house.
So I give him the whole thing, and here's my book, and he's like, you realize? I have a podcast where we bring on authors. I'm like, oh, of course. Okay, that makes it. Actually, there's one I've been thinking about this. So this is let me find it here. This line in my book, I've been thinking about the whole. I'll just read it. So let me set up the scenario a little bit, but it has to do with me and you meeting in that serendipitous way. Okay, so I don't want to say too much because I want you to read the book, but I will say that there is a priest on the ground. He's either dead or not dead. I won't say which one. And the 2 boys trying to figure out what to do with him. And Wade, the main character, just gets done explaining to Ralph, the other main character, how the priest got in the state he was and why they were there in the tabernacle with him. And so, let's see. So I pieced out after that, and here we are. It was that easy. And when something is that easy, you got to know the big man's on your side. He pointed skyward. He dipped a wafer into my coffee and put it on his tongue as if he were giving himself the sacrament. There is no such thing as a coincidence, Ralph. There are only signs from God.
Oh, that's good.
I
Thank you
love
so
it. I
much.
totally
That's really
believe
good.
that.
Yeah,
I
me
totally. It was
too.
so serendipity, and it was so funny because it was Dan's 30th birthday bash. So they were all up north, and
We were skiing at what'd you
Shanty
call
Creek.
it? Yeah, Shanty Creek.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Dude, I was
Shout out
having-
to my girlfriend who set that whole thing. I was nuts.
Yeah, shout out. Shout
to
out
be
to
to be
Clarissa.
honest, dude, though, I was having a rough day.
Yes,
I am not a
yes.
good skier. I'm trying
Oh,
to keep
yeah.
up with these guys who are like really good skiers. They
the
got
younger
free
brother.
skiing at
Yeah.
Michigan.
I'm
you
the
know,
best
where
skier
they
on the
went to-
mountain.
He is. He's
I'm
like
so good.
he'll slap.
Especially at Shanty Creek. That's
Yeah. He'll slap his like poles in the ground. I'm the best goddamn skier around. And I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah, I whack my poles all the time.
and then like I'm just
Pole
like
whacker.
getting my ass kicked by this hill. I'm falling down. I'm getting frustrated. I,
Your
like, yelled
nieces,
at them
like,
in
skied
a
away from
moment of
you.
weakness. I yelled at them. I'm tired. Like my calves are killing me. And then like I got
Matt needed a win.
I
He
needed a
needed a
win.
win.
I
I
needed a
felt
win.
really bad for him.
and like
Weren't you sick? Like you had just come back from a Florida
God, dude,
vacation.
I came
that
back
was-
from a vacation from hell. Like just unbelievable. Like I had like the stomach flu
Oh,
and I
shit.
played golf at the same time. I tell you what, miserable.
That's
I
funny.
played like shit. Like it was not going well, but you know I got to go on an airplane, so that kind of scratched my
go on an
tism a little
airplane?
bit. Yeah, I got to go on an airplane. I flew back.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
they drove down.
Oh, you mean
Yeah.
just like a normal airplane?
Yeah, just a normal airplane, which you know scratched.
Stop
makes it all worth it.
Stop. Dan's like, what kind of plane? You got to go on a plane.
Yeah.
He's like, it was a
I
747.
did get to go to like the Navy
Boeing.
the Navy Museum down there and stuff.
Cool.
But like you know, I get back and I'm just like coming off of being sick. I literally threw up the morning that I showed up. Like
To
and
Shanty
then I
Creek.
try to ski and I'm just like getting shit on, like just like twisting my legs. And then like we have to meet them back for lunch and my like cousins just leave me like 2 miles away because they're like, can you leave your skis here? And I'm like, no. Wow. Like, why would I leave my stuff here? Like, it's 2 miles away where we need to go. And they're like, all right, well, we're going to get in this car. We can't really fit your skis. We'll see you later. And I'm it's like, bullshit. I'm like, this is
So
bullshit.
they just left you at the side of a hill,
yeah.
Dana and Jenna.
Yeah. They didn't even try. They didn't even attempt
Are you
to, like-
listening?
Isn't
Dana
one
and
of
Jenna?
them? One of them's our like publicist or something. Or what was
the
it?
pod manager
The
that never
podcast
shows
manager?
up.
She's real. Wow, we pay her.
Dana.
Yeah, she's
We don't pay her anything, but we still pay her too much.
We had her on because she's both of our nieces. My nieces are in they're all in advertising and marketing, and they're very good like on Instagram. And so we're like, hey, why don't you help us out?
Yeah, duh.
She lives mad.
So anyway, I was in a like after everything, we come back and I'm just like, I'm just gonna get fucked up. Like I'm just like, I'm just gonna get drunk.
That's
and
an
my
easy
girlfriend,
thing to do in Bel Air.
yeah, my girlfriend at the time was like, just like, also couldn't do anything. She had like COVID or influenza at the same time. So she was just like bedridden, and then like I'm like, all right, just gonna get drunk. So we went out to Bel Air and came to the place, and like I introduced you, and I was pretty drunk. But when I met you,
did you recognize that he was drunk?
No, I didn't know
Oh,
until
that's
today.
awesome.
But I
Okay.
do. I mean, I assume everybody there is drunk. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it's an easy. It's clear.
it wouldn't have mattered if I was drunk. I probably still would have told you
Oh yeah.
because it's
yeah.
a unique experience. I wasn't expecting to win anything. I was like,
was
oh, this
weird.
is cool, and then I put my name in. And I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's see what happens. And then
That's awesome.
Yeah, you can't make that up. I like feel like my whole life is a series of strange serendipitous moments. Like
Yeah.
you know,
No,
I just
and
like,
I
all right,
love
okay, I'm
that.
going this way now.
Yes.
you
Kinda
know?
do too.
No, you're
That's crazy.
you're talking to the choir because that's kind of how we live our life, and especially being a writer, it's a leap of faith, and you
Yeah.
don't know where it's going to take you, and sometimes you're in the thick of it, and you're like, oh my God, like what is happening to me, and like why did this happen, and then something really cool because of that happened, something even better comes along, and that's what I mean, which is so cool because then you reached out to us, and Matt said, you know, that he had met you, and that he goes, and he brought this book in, and hand stitched, hand done. This is like for a person that does this for a living, this is amazing to me. The whole process of publishing is it's kind of like mysterious.
It's like
you
an
know what I mean?
art.
It is an art. And years ago, like
Yeah.
it's one of the oldest form of arts. Like the
yeah.
printing press changed the world. Like it brought, back in I think it came out like just coming out of the dark ages because people couldn't
1450.
read. Yeah.
Johann Gutenberg. Is that the
Gutenberg, yeah.
press?
And so you kind of like bring
They
it
tried to
back.
shut him
And
down.
when I read your
Couldn't do it.
yeah, no, they couldn't, and a lot of it was religious stuff that was being printed, and I think it's so cool too because this is like about a journey of two Catholic boys trying to like figure out if they're going to heaven or hell, and I love that because don't we all? I mean, they're like so. My husband's Catholic, and you guys are because he was Catholic and he calls himself a recovering Catholic because I think he grew up with a little Catholic guilt. I think it's just part and parcel
Part of being
of it.
Catholic.
So you guys were growing up maybe a little like just non-denominational.
Secondary guilt.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. For
My
sure.
son will be growing up with that.
Secondary guilt. Well, yeah, I mean, guilt is a control mechanism. Totally
Yeah.
control.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
parents use it. Parents are really good at guilt. And my mom is really good at it. And
Not as good as the Catholic Church.
no,
though.
not
No.
nothing
got it down
like
to a
it.
science.
Yeah,
Nothing
they've been
like
doing
it.
it for 2,024 years.
And it's interesting when you kind of like take a step back. You have the rules in front of you. You don't do this, you go to hell. Don't do this, you go to hell. Or don't do this. And first of all, you take a step back and you're like, what is even hell? Like, is it real? Because like my dad was like, hell does not exist.
Yeah.
Like my dad was really cool because he, I don't know, like they
very
were
spiritual.
Lutheran, but he was more spiritual, and so he kind of like for an early age. And then my mom was very very Lutheran, and that's just one step away from being Catholic. So she
Yeah.
was good at
Lutheran's just one step away.
It
from
is.
the Catholic. Is
That's
it really?
that was
without the
that was
alcohol and the
first-
party because they were very like they never really drank. They're really good people. I mean, my God, they were phenomenal. I love my parents to death, but my dad was more like questioning. And then my mom was more like embracing, the
By the book.
because
More
well,
of a by
when
the-
you're young and you learn the stuff, and not to say that organized religion does have a place, but sometimes like whenever people have that kind of control over a population, it can and depending on who's in charge of that particular church, you can go two ways, right?
Oh yeah.
You can either have
yeah.
like an amazing human being at the helm, or you can have literally a devil.
My perspective is
Yeah.
like at every moment in human history, the most human thing ever is to have someone want to control people and make people die for them and make people whatever and just controlling people. Like that is literally the human story. It's like some
But then you need
psychopath
civilization.
rises
Like
through the
you need-
ranks,
yeah.
whatever, controls a bunch of people like, Attila the Hun and like
Oh, yeah,
all
yeah.
the great
As Matt started the
emperors and
podcast
kings
out.
and whatever. yeah. So then you get to religion, and religion is a balance of like, well, I guess this is another thing I've been thinking about pretty deeply the past few days, and I think a lot of people have trouble with this, but holding two conflicting ideas in your head at the same time.
Yeah, and how do you make
where,
sense of it?
Where like on one hand you have the church and the organized religion, and there's a lot of good things about it, and then you have it also could maybe be used to control people in certain ways, and it is a balance between those two ideas. At least that's how I look at
Yeah.
it. It is like a little bit.
Because I think to blindly believe, like to believe everything somebody tells you, and when you're young, you do that. Like I'm still exceptionally gullible. Like you tell me something, I believe your story.
Yeah.
I mean, I just have that. But it's if you don't question, and I think they had such absolute power because think of the power of like you do this or you're not going to like because living in the earth can be very hellish for some people. Do you know what I mean? Like it can be a hard existence sometimes, and the promise of something like glorious and better, but that it's restricted for only a few, like that kind of bothered me. Like that, like no, not everybody.
Yeah, that's
gonna
the control,
get into the
though.
club.
That's
Yeah,
the control.
But that's the control, and that's
Yeah.
so interesting. But yeah, so you must have like tell us about that journey too, because I
Yeah.
mean, I just find this so funny, and it's extremely like charming and well written.
Thank you.
And it's like I love the fact that you just said screw the publishing world. Now, well, look, all right, I love publishing world. I'm just gonna back
She's
up
gonna
here.
cancel herself.
Yeah.
She's
No,
gonna
don't
get
cancel me.
blackballed.
So we're going.
I
I'm going to
worked
be your only hope. I'm going to have to publish the rest of your novels, Darci.
I will do it.
Right in your living room.
Oh my gosh, I know. Well, so no, but it's I think everybody who wants to be a writer, and it's a weird thing. Like, like my kids, you don't ever have the bug. Like you're funny.
No.
Like you'll do certain things. You guys are creative in other ways, but I think there's something about one day you wake up and you're like, I have to tell the story.
Yeah.
Like, is that how it happened to you? Because you've been writing for a long time. I
Yeah.
was reading your bio, and it was so cool.
Yeah, I've been writing since I was 22. I went to Africa, and I did all these email correspondence back to family and friends talking about what I experienced. And everybody really liked them, and they told them that
Yeah.
I should put them into a
Yeah.
book. So I started writing a really crappy book about Africa that never, saw the light of day. But that was the first time I was like,
But it
okay, I'm
got
going to write a novel.
Right.
you
It
know?
got you the process of writing. And
Yeah.
that's what it is. Like, I tell the story of my 1,000-page,
Yeah.
paperweight now.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It gets you to the point where, you've got to, it gets you used to that process of writing, So
Messing it
that's-
up. You have to, I've been doing it for 15 years, and I really feel like you can't do anything unless you've done it for near that amount of time.
It's the 10,000 hour rule.
Yeah,
Like,
I've
do you
been.
know that?
I
Yeah.
do. Yeah, I've been. So the National Writers Series. I don't know if you know what this is. It's up in Traverse City. It's founded by Doug and Ann Stanton. Doug's a New York Times bestseller. He wrote
wow.
In Harm's Way about the sinking of the USS in Indianapolis. He wrote Horse Soldiers about the beginnings of our war in Afghanistan, and then he wrote a book about the Tet
Right.
Offensive.
Oh, did
Yes,
they
I've
make
heard-
that into
yes.
a movie?
It was. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
called
Yeah.
12 Strong.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
it with what's Chris Hemsworth or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah, that was a good movie.
That guy came to my first author event.
Really?
It was wild. It was, and I love him. So the reason that he even came there is because I typed out this hand-typed letter to him and told him basically a book report about all of his prowess as an interviewer, because they have these huge authors come in for the interviews, like Janet Ivanovich, Lee Child.
This is up in Traverse City.
This is up in Traverse City.
And I was never,
Really?
and I'm never
Wow.
invited. What?
I'm not invited either. They literally have.
Let's break in.
I know, that's what I'm trying to do, honestly. And yeah, that's
This is our new evil plan.
yeah, it's not evil. It's a really good. They're amazing people, and so these two come to my first author event, and immediately I'm like overcome with adoration for this guy.
yeah.
But I didn't really so I didn't really realize what a great writer he was, and so I start diving into his books, and then I'm totally fascinated by the entirety of sitting down with another person and being interviewed. And so now they're actually they've commissioned me to go through all of their whole catalog of videos and come up with a top 10 list. And so I've been going through and listening to hundreds of hours of these authors just talk about the process of writing and what they go through. And there
Oh my
are
God.
two commonalities between every single writer there. And the first one is that all of them have a loving significant other, a wife or a husband.
Oh,
Yeah, every single one of them. And then the other one that they all have in common is what we're talking about, is they have all written a ton. There are zero, and if they haven't written a ton, they have been immersed in the realm of stories. Some of them came from like television, and then they moved into movies, and so they all have this rich history of just like getting stories from here into the paper, and that has been really invigorating to see, because I have both of those. I have a loving wife, and I have written thousands and thousands of pages, and so it's nice to like feel like I'm on the right path. And if you're a writer and you're listening to this and you're wondering about all of the questions that young writers have, do not fear, my friends. It is you are doing the right thing. If you sit down and you put a pencil on a paper, your fingers on the keyboard, whatever you do, you are enacting the will that you need in order to become a writer someday, and you will succeed.
beautiful.
You can. The only way to fail is to give up. Eventually,
Right.
you're gonna. If you go back and read some of my early writings, I do sometimes, and they're horrifying to me. I feel like an alien from a different planet of idiots wrote them. It really is the truth. But now I'm getting a lot better at it, and I'm happier.
It's so, you have such a fun, witty way, and you are a beautiful writer.
Yeah,
the
I will
variety.
like.
Penis and all. It's so no, okay.
I immediately I was like.
We were laughing so much.
Yeah,
at the donkey.
Yeah,
scene.
you're very very
Clap was like
very
clap was
good. You're a
solid,
very
dude.
good writer. Like, it's very like off the bat. You're like, wow,
Yeah,
this is like
and
so.
you're following that path. Yeah.
It was very like smart. Like, I don't know. There's everything.
I
I'm
gotta read.
not a professional Like, I don't know anything about writing, but yeah, I don't know.
I have to
You're-
read this first page. I think
Oh,
we
yeah.
can't have the
yeah.
specter
No,
of
I know.
the
I
penis
just,
is the. I'm
Matt
just gonna.
drops. So I'll tell that. So Matt drops this off. He was so cute because he called me, probably a little drunk. Did you come the day that you won the ticket?
Oh yeah, sure.
Because I was concerned,
Yeah.
as a mother, I was concerned about this child flying in sick and going straight to this party, his brothers, and he can't keep up with them. And he was really sad. And then he calls me and he's like, hey, guess what? I went to this place and I drank a lot of mead. And then it was and then I met this author and he prints his own books and he's awesome. So that's how, and it was so cool because then you kind of reached out to me, or maybe you reached out to Matt first, but
Yeah, I think so.
I had
don't-
the book, and it was really cool.
Yeah,
And
okay.
like,
I'm
oh
gonna,
my
I'm gonna
God.
read the first
Okay.
page so the people that are thinking about buying this as they listen don't think that there's a penis scene on the first page. Which, by the way, I will also have to say that I think page 7 of your book, The
Oh
Angel
my
of
God,
Blythe
yes,
Hall,
yes, sorry.
it has an orgy in it. And so
Oh, it does.
oh, it does. Oh, yeah. So
Oh,
you're
forgot
talking
about
all this crap about my little penis scene. It's just
I
like one
forgot
little
about
boy
that.
in his room, and you've got like 15 people crawling all around in ancient Scotland doing God knows what. So, geez.
Glad I didn't,
Yeah,
Oh my God.
glad I didn't have to read that.
Yeah, thank God I didn't read that.
You guys haven't read it?
They don't read. When I die, they're gonna get the surprise of their life.
No, you know what? I'm reading it right now. I'm gonna get some cliff notes
Yeah.
for you guys so you
That's
just
what I
talk
needed the
intelligently
whole
about it
time.
with your
Thank
mom
you.
at the dinner date. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we asked her for that. Like, do you have cliff notes? Like,
One of it.
I think one of my best friends like gave me like the best quote ever. Like, because we were talking about reading, and he's like, "I would rather do anything else than read a book." like,
Yeah, that's so funny because you guys sit here and have all these
I know,
authors
I know.
on,
Yeah.
and you're just like, I haven't read your stuff, but I don't read
Tell me
anybody's
about
stuff,
it.
so don't be mad. I'm actually very honored that you got 5 pages into my book. That
Yeah.
sounds like there's a very difficult task.
Oh, they'll
for you.
they'll
No,
read.
it's-
I mean, it's like a time issue, and I think it's hard. But yeah, it's funny because he tried to read one of my books for middle school, or no, you were in high school. It was like the first book that came out. Then he's like, oh, I'm gonna read your book for my book report. Then he writes a book report, gives it to me to read, and then the first part was cool, and then the second part was like, this isn't my book.
All right, this story is heavily embellished, I will say. It's heavily
I
embellished.
go to you and I go, that's not how the book ends. You did not finish the book, and then you said, well, I couldn't find the cliff notes online.
No, that was how. That's the embellished version of the
Oh,
story.
I thought you told me you couldn't find the cliff notes. No.
Oh, no, I didn't. What?
All right.
All right. Anyways, just read the first page.
Okay, here we go.
We're gonna get into a domestic. Wait, what's
Did
that?
you guys hear that?
Yeah.
That was the sound. I think I can repeat it.
It sounds
I
like a
hope,
church chime.
I hope everybody listening online is
again.
is
Do it
a
again.
church chime. Okay, well this will be the beginning. One morning, I woke up to find that sometime in the night, I had grown a brand new body part. I wasn't sure what it was or where it came from, but I got the feeling that this new body part would be with me forever. I lay there in my bed, wondering what to do. Afraid of using my hands, I tried folding it into the seam of my underwear, but there wasn't enough of anything to be folded into anything else. Then I tried to squash it beneath my pillow, but nothing happened. I lifted my knees to my chest and grabbed my ankles, hoping it would vanish between my thighs, but that just made it worse. With the sun now shining through my window, I got out of bed and inspected my shadow against the wall. A tent was pitched where there had been no tent before. There was a bird beak protruding from my undergrunders. I stretched the elastic waistband on my pajamas to have a look. Ah! I snapped it shut. Something was growing down there. I didn't want to touch it or do anything to it, so I sat on the edge of my bed and waited for it to go away. Minutes passed, then maybe an hour. Then the ceiling creaked above me. My parents were mulling around in the kitchen. I smelled coffee. "Did you get the paper yet, hon?" my mom asked. "Not yet, hon," my dad replied. My new body part disappeared immediately. I looked at my clock radio. The numbers all folded together. The time was Saturday. The paper wasn't on the porch. The paper hadn't come yet. I was the paper boy.
That's awesome.
I know it's so good, but yeah. So all right,
There's no
I
peanut.
stand
There was.
corrected. There's not the word.
You wrote an orgy?
It's like I mean it's 7 pages in.
Yeah.
It's not. It's right in the beginning there. I mean it's like
7
the
more
first.
pages
yeah.
than I
It
got into the
might be the epilogue. It might be an epilogue
It is.
orgy.
It is.
It's very rare.
Jesus, mom.
And why was that not a bestseller? Angel of Blythe Hall.
Seriously, it is. I'm reading it right now, and I read tons and tons of books,
my
and I used to fastidiously make it through every page of every crappy book that
Oh,
I read
geez.
because I thought there was
Yeah.
going to be this nugget that was going to, and I think that's a good thing for writers to do too, to like read crappy books because you get so inspired by that, like, oh, if this is in the, I
I
can
can
definitely
get
do
published
that.
too.
Yeah, and that is
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
I just I shouldn't say any names of people. Maybe they're magically listening, so we won't talk about those.
No,
the
they're
recent
not
really
listening.
crap. Okay, there's a bestseller. Let's just do it.
Let's do it. Let's go. We can
What's her
always
name?
edit.
Bonnie Garmoose. Her new book, Lessons in Chemistry.
Oh, yes,
national
it's
best.
huge. I've not read it yet. I've
don't
heard mixed.
read. I mean,
I've heard mixed.
seriously, I threw it out after 60 pages. And this is a world class.
It's made into a movie.
It's translated into 60 languages, you know. And I'm reading through it, and I'm just like, this lady can't write. What is this lady doing? Why am I reading this? And so I'm so used to that. And so I pick up everybody's new book with, okay, how, you know, what's this going to be like? But yours, I've been captured from the very beginning.
Well, thank you. And
It's
I paid him to say this.
No paying.
If you want to come on the podcast, Austin, no,
go buy the book. Can you even buy it anymore? Can you buy the Angel of Blythe Hall?
It's very rare.
Okay,
right now.
you
So
can
we're
buy
gonna...
one from me then.
I'll sign it. You can send it right out. No, I'm trying to get that one back on.
I got it from the library. I'm sorry. I know
Just
that.
keep it. You can just pay the fine. I'll pay the fine for you.
Yeah,
They're
libraries
rare. They're that
are just bookstores where you pay for the book later.
I used to work at
It's
a
kind of
library.
theft,
Yeah, I used to work at a library. Books disappear all the time. And then you send you charge their account, but they have that day where they forgive all.
Once a year.
Yeah, once a year. You can return the
Amnesty.
book.
It's a great system.
And then if you don't, I shouldn't say this.
You have to. Then if you don't,
people have said worse. Don't worry.
if you don't,
If you don't ever return it, they just buy a new one. But if they can't buy a new one, they just forget that it ever existed.
Jesus.
so goes the life of a forlorn, forgotten book.
Yeah, we used to find a lot of some religious person would come in and they would take all the witchcraft books and they would just gather them up and they would put them under they would hide them. And we realized when we moved the whole library, we had to move all these shelves.
Oh, Jesus.
And because we kept ordering them because people wanted them. Sometimes it would be
Harry Potter.
No. I'm talking
That'd
about
be hilarious, guys.
it's in spirituality, but they would have spell casting for beginners, that kind of weird, you know what I mean, or reading your aura, some. But I think they were a little more hardcore. But they were, and there was this ledge on the very bottom of the bookshelf. There was this ledge that they'd pick up and they would put the books under there. Nobody knew you could pick up this ledge, but these group of people. And so when we moved, we kept ordering the books and they disappear. We ordered the books, they disappear because people would ask for them. And then when they went to move, because we did a whole renovation, we found all these books.
That gets back to what our original conversation was about.
God,
the guilt.
Yes.
Somebody is somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
somebody.
they're like, you shouldn't be reading this. It shouldn't be in the library. And they never, to their credit, never checked it out or removed it or stole it. It was always in the library.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, you can't. That would be going against the Ten Commandments.
It just put the invisibility cloak over it. But it was pretty funny. It was like, what are these doing here? And nobody knew that we could do that.
You think they read the book a little bit to make it where's the invisible spell?
Because we just thought people were taking
The invisibility.
Yeah, I don't want to do this, God, but I have to achieve your goal.
Oh yeah, that must be a confusing life to live right there.
But it was so interesting because we just thought it was the people who would check these books out and never bring them back because they were so there's a couple that
They're so good.
Well, there was one it was a birthday, your horoscope on your birthday.
Oh, the birthday book. I know that book.
Yeah,
that book
knows that book
is dangerous.
Yeah, is it? I've never read it, but we used to carry it and then it would disappear and then we'd buy a new one.
It's dangerous, really.
Oh yeah, I had this girl lived next to me in Salem, Oregon.
A little bit.
We had adjoining apartments kind of at the laundry room, and I wasn't there all the time, which is good, but she would find dates online. She would find out their birthday.
Oh.
She would go into the birthday book and figure out how these people worked, and then try to get them to come back over and sleep with them.
Really?
Oh,
What?
wow. Predator.
I mean,
I'm gonna ask a dumb question.
Yeah.
Did it work?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I wish we had that book.
That's why it's always missing from the library because when we order it, the person who it never comes back.
It's a sex book for witches.
No,
it's not sex.
There's no sex. It's literally just a horoscopic view of your life based on the day that you were born, and it's wildly accurate.
Really?
I read it and had chills, but I've never seen anybody read it and not be like, go through and okay, my mom's birthday is blah blah blah, and reading wow. I mean, it's spectacularly done. I can see how you would think it's witchcraft.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think it's there's something to it, or do you think it's I don't know.
that's
There's some sort of generalization that they're doing to figure out or make people believe that they know stuff about them? What do you think?
Yeah. So if the fact of the matter is that there is no astrological significance to what you read in that book, then the fact of the matter becomes that this person that wrote the book is so skilled of a writer that they can make every single person that reads it feel like this book is describing them, which is an equally amazing feat.
Yeah,
Right,
I think that's
yeah.
like horoscopes, you know.
But I would say also though that there's only a finite amount of light in the universe, and that's what these are based on, is like the position of the stars and the planets at the moment of your birth. And so to take all of that happen chance and circumstance and the light actually that comes all the way down here to earth and just say that doesn't have any effect on our everyday lives whatsoever, that doesn't seem right to me either.
I think
that's
like
very cool, very cool.
Because I've been thinking about it too, and I think there is maybe a little bit to it, and I think going along with what you said with the light, I think it's the gravity. These massive bodies actually have like a gravitational pull, and we've never been like your entire life. You are never in the same place in the universe, like more than once. Like you've literally, because the Earth is moving and our solar system is
that's
moving
so
through space. So like
a good
you
point.
literally, like if you look, you probably find some point in the universe that you were born and it's just empty space. That's where the Earth was when you were born, right?
Yeah.
And that's where all the planetary bodies were aligned when you were born. So like, I don't know. Every person came into this world in a slightly different spot, in a slightly different orientation compared to like the rest of the planetary bodies and whatever. So I don't know. Maybe there's something to it. That's all I'm saying.
It's remarkable. That's more like that spirituality, or the people who study like astrological charts. There's a real big science behind it, and it's really complicated. I listen to people talk about it.
They don't just say what day you were born. In order to get your star chart read, you tell the person the exact time that you were born, the exact location that you were born, as well as the day and the year. And so they're the professionals that do it take into account not just the time, but the specter of light that's actually beaming down on you at that very specific
That is
time.
crazy. I never heard about that it was light, because I know
very
like
intense.
Lighter, because we're talking about energy,
Right.
I'm just saying light as a
probably is.
electromagnetic
No.
energy and gravitational
Yes.
energy, but just like the energy of the world, focusing in on this one miraculous time, which is the day of your birth. And we really have nothing to go by. And I'm not somebody that like reads the horoscope and assumes that all of these things are generally true or anything, but I do believe that we have so little understanding of what we're doing here, that to take something like the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita and all of the specter of horoscopical insight, those are clues into why we're here and what we can do while we're here to help the human race continue on into infinity. And so I'd be reticent to just be like, it's just a bunch of hoopla. I'd also be reticent to be like, okay, my birthday book says
only gonna go on that.
I need to go do some, so it's like a mix of the two, but I don't feel, I still take with me the lessons that I learned when I was growing up Catholic, not all of them. I feel like the main lesson that they teach you is that you are bad, or you're a sinner, and you need to repent for your sins, otherwise you burn in hell. That specific lesson, I think, is extremely damaging.
It's exceptionally damaging.
I would agree. I feel like that is the that's going to be the control aspect of it, right? Like I think it's kind of wrong to inherently just say because you exist, you're evil or flawed in some way, and it's like, what specifically are you talking about? But they use that to basically get you to do things, right?
Give them money.
Fear. Yeah, anytime somebody uses fear as a motivator, it's mostly.
I mean,
just
how damaging
to
to tell a
manipulate.
child that? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And isn't it like all that original sin? Born, from
Isn't
original
it?
sin, and then I could see where growing up, you have a real issue because you're, all of a sudden you're a child, and then all of a sudden you're becoming like your adolescence. You start developing and you start getting you start becoming a sexual more sexually aware, I guess, and then your whole really like the drive of human nature and almost every living thing is procreation. It's a very strong drive. We don't talk about this enough, boys. No kidding.
Yeah.
No, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so as I can imagine, if you don't have a lot of people like in your life that can talk freely about it, that you respect, because I think a lot of times, like in previous generations, nobody talked about that stuff. The church was supposed to tell you about that, and they told you, because I know in my husband's family, that was kind of the thing. It's like you learn everything from the church, and you don't talk about certain things, but we're human beings, and you're curious, and you've got these changes going on in your body, and you don't know why.
And they're all bad. All you've heard is that they're
Yes,
just bad.
yes. There's
none of
a
this is
shame
good.
about it, and there's and then there's the opposite thought where then people are just so crazily free. Do you know what I mean? And that's also kind of, I don't know, it's just so different. Like totally rebelling. On the other end, there's got to be a happy medium, but I think that's something that, that's very real for people growing up. And I don't know if it's so much like that today. Is it? Do you think?
Oh, the Catholic Church hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed. Okay.
1700 years or something. I think right around 350 is when
Yeah.
they conglomerated the Bible and made the actual church. So yeah, it really hasn't changed. They do the same thing. I think people are becoming more aware of the repercussions of avoiding talking about those things openly with people. And so I think, the conversation has changed a little bit, but I don't think there's been any great gains in that realm, over the last 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, and it's real sad because, my husband's his church, he had came from a big Catholic family, and there had been priest molestation in his family, and so that when I heard that as a young woman who got married and whatever, I'm like, my kids are not going in. I'm very protective. I'm a mama bear. I'll just embrace it.
Yeah, she wouldn't let us do the Boy Scouts.
I know. I love my kids. Isn't that terrible?
Oh, you are a very good mom. I see you.
But you know what I mean?
Now we
Because you
know.
only have so much opportunity to protect your children. And I feel like the most protected class that we have in the world should be our children, and in America especially. And I see how that childhood is being taken away from them through this, just giving your kid a phone or giving whatever. There's this innocence, and we talk about it. Some of the older people, oh, remember when we used to go to the library, and you would get these books, and they were just so it was a kind of a really charming, a coming of age story, kind of like you have, or you talk, just these really kind of wonderful journeys, innocent, I used to read a lot of dog stories, Where the Red Fern Grows and things like that, where they're real in a real world with real people. And just very charming. And now you go to the bookstores, and all they're pushing to kids is fantasy, sci-fi, fiction, and and anime, and you don't know what's in that. As parents, it's kind of a little jarring. Do you know what I mean? So you have to
I mean, the book, getting a book is the least dangerous thing that a kid can do still, though. I mean,
Yes.
having the internet in your hands, that's, there's, you guys know what's on there. That's the real danger. It's going to be, in that sense too, you have this entire generation where, even if their parents don't discuss sexuality with them in the proper way, they're going to be able to figure out what it's all about on their own. And so, there could be some healing in that as well. It is horrifying, but at the same time too, the way that our parents have been bringing us up in those regards could also be equally as horrifying. And having this outlet where you can kind of discover these things without the consequences. You can't get AIDS from the internet, it doesn't,
That's very
it doesn't.
true.
So you can kind of explore things, but not have to actually do them in the explorations. And so it kind of gets this, oh my God, we got to protect our kids from all this stuff. But at the same time, that protection is the same thing that has made the Catholic Church into the 2,000-year-old child molestation ring that it kind of really is, and so it is the truth. There, you hear stories about it all the time. We had my wife and I went to the same church, and we remember the day this guy that was our priest came up and he was like, I have had relations with a young man, and he got escorted out of the church, and then we had a new priest the next day, and we were actually kind of talking about that moment recently, and we went back and did some research about this guy. And it turns out that, that's all true. He did have a relationship with somebody, and he was accused of it later. So after he left our church, he went on permanent medical leave, paid permanent medical leave for the rest of his career, and he recently died.
Oh,
dude, I've heard that in the Vatican too, they have a group of people who are there just to hush situations like that up.
And they're so good at it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
terrible.
they're very powerful.
This is another problem I have is can we just let them have sex? With the women.
Can't they
With
just
women.
With women.
It would,
can we just
literally
get rid of
cure
that?
all of the
Yeah,
problems. I would
it would
imagine.
cure all.
You wouldn't have any more.
Let them be gay with each other too. I don't care.
Fine. Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
The Bible does not decree that.
Yeah.
So you can't
I
do
think
it.
they should change that. To be honest, just
amend the Bible. That's the thing the Bible's missing is constitutional amendments.
Daniel.
This whale story, I'm not gonna. We're taking it out.
It's not true. Yeah, no.
Well,
no.
I've taken out a lot of like books from the Bible too.
Yeah,
Like,
it's already been edited. We can edit it again.
There was there. What was the one that was like weird?
The Dead
The
Sea
book of-
Scrolls.
the Dead Sea Scrolls. One they call like the book of like like maybe not Ezekiel, but it's
Yeah, I
it's,
remember.
it's about like fallen
Thomas,
angels
yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Oh, that
And
was oh God.
I know that like in Africa, it's a bigger book.
I had that whole. I was reading.
Yeah,
some
and
of
it's
the
really interesting.
patriarchs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
What
about
was his
like
name?
kind of fallen angels coming to
Yeah.
Earth and like they like
I have
will
a- I
have
have a
sex
whole
with
book on it,
women.
and
It's like really weird. It's
Oh.
like it's weird, but it's like it's interesting.
Ironically,
Aliens?
Well, no, it talks about like a guy
What is
who
his
was like a
name?
prophet,
Who?
but
No,
there's
he was-
like the church looks at like people who are able to prophesize things as like evil too.
Uh-huh.
So it's like it's
Yeah.
interesting
because
to
it's
say
an
the least.
occult, but then so then they have people that can't. I don't know. It's just human nature is human nature. Like it's been
Yeah.
here forever. But yeah, that was like a patriarch of the Old Testament, and I forgot. Gosh, what is his name? But it just I have the whole book.
Nebuchadnezzar?
No,
No,
he
it's a
actually
different
goes
one.
up with the angels and can see the earth from above, and it's the craziest.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah. There's
amazing.
something about
It's
how like
amazing.
God while he's alive.
And then fallen angels have come to the earth.
Yeah, it's something about,
Well,
like
angels
something
are-
about how like the God comes down
just
and
look
lets
this
him
up.
go
This is why I
in
have to
while
Gosh,
he's
you know what
alive. Like he
happened?
doesn't die; he just gets accepted into heaven
What
as
is
he's
the
as a
name?
living being. It's like really
Uh-huh.
interesting.
It's the book
my
of Google.
old- Well,
Yeah,
no, it's
you
my
gotta
old
Google it.
brain that can't remember this name. It's like around the time before Noah. He was before Noah.
Enoch?
Enoch.
the
Book of Enoch.
Yeah, the Book of Enoch. Yeah.
We're all kind of right. Nebuchadnezzar. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh wait, no, Nebuchadnezzar. That was what.
Last one,
that was the
Charles.
last episode. Yeah.
Yeah, Charles kept telling us, and I kept pronouncing that wrong. The Book of Enoch is all about angels, and I got that and read it before I wrote Angel of Blythe Hall because I was
Oh.
deep down in my
Oh, you read it?
angel law.
You read
Yes,
it?
I have the book if you want it. The Book of Enoch, and it's was not included. I don't think
Was it good? Did you like it? Was it
it's
interesting?
different. Yeah, I mean, he lived, gosh, how many years? Like 600 years. Like,
Yeah.
it's really interesting. The Old
I've been-
Testament, yeah.
I've been going into the realm of Chinese folk tales like
Ooh,
this. You
I've
know,
never,
so like
yeah.
old stories that get
Passed on.
throughout the times. And I have a friend in Bel Air that's Chinese, so I'm able to like read them and then ask her about what it was like growing up with these stories. The one I'm reading right now is called The Monkey King, and it's about a stone that one day bursts open and a monkey emerges, and he slowly learns how to move, and so he becomes fully capable with his entire body, and he jumps through a waterfall and discovers this new land, and everybody comes with him, and so they decide that he's the king. So he's king for 7 years, and he decides that he wants to find enlightenment or learn enlightenment, and so he goes and finds a teacher. He travels the 7 seas, and he finally finds a teacher that will teach him enlightenment. But then he in front of all of his classmates, he turns himself into a tree, and the teacher's like, exiles him from the community. You're not supposed to be showing off your skills. I didn't teach you these things just so you can show off. And so then he leaves, and the teacher says, no, don't, whatever you do, do not tell anybody that I taught you this. And the Monkey King says, okay, fine, I'll tell everybody I learned it myself.
Yeah.
And that's as far as I've gotten in the book. And that,
Oh, it's so fascinating.
and I think I'm on page 10. All of that happened in 10 pages. It's like
Wow, okay.
it's like a completely different way of telling stories that these people
Isn't
have been
it?
doing
It
for
kinda
thousands
fits,
of
like-
years.
Folk tales and
It
stuff
kind of
like
fits
that.
their cultural, like how their society
Fascinating.
works a little bit, because like Asian societies tend to be not so like individualistic, like
Mhm.
very show offy. They tend to be like more of a, if you stand out, it's kind of a bad thing to stand out. You know what I mean? It's like, which is in it because I work with the Japanese a lot with my job, and it's very much like that. Like they will not really tell you how they're feeling. They'll
Yeah.
they'll just say things, and they'll apologize to you in like 3 different ways. Like they don't want to stand out really,
Uh-huh.
right? So it's like, and like the Chinese are kind of like that too, and the Koreans, but the whole like him standing in front of
Well, yeah.
the class and showing off is like being individualistic and kind of being showing like he is extraordinary than anyone else, which is like not really, goes against their society, right?
Mhm.
That's
is
very
interesting.
interesting.
Like-
That's very interesting.
But
When you
to-
said that, yeah, that's what it reminded me of. But.
So to contrast it with the tropes that we have grown up with, that are mostly the main ones are kind of like these hero stories, like something happens a mysterious person comes in the night, fixes the problem, and then leaves. It's like this very individual, one person is capable of doing immense things. And it's a little bit the same, but they make him a concrete monkey. You know, he's capable of learning these things. But at the same time, you're right. Like you're immediately aware that any show of the self isn't going to be tolerated. But I also find in reading these, I've read another one too, The Dream of the Red Chamber, and it's this one is huge. It's like 7 volumes. It's like this big. You know, it's thousands of pages. It's a crazy story, and it was translated in English for the first time in the 1970s. It was written in the 1700s, I believe, in the Ming Dynasty. And the guy that was translating it, he had a mental breakdown. He couldn't do the whole thing, and so somebody else had to pick up for him afterwards. And it
just such a big task. He couldn't do.
Yeah, and it's an amazing story. The preface basically says it's impossible to translate this. The richness of language that was used in making this is not transferable from Chinese to English. But you know, he gives it a try anyways, and it begins with this boy that's born with a jade in his mouth, and he's part of the Jia family, and they're extremely rich, and they go through this tumultuous time, and their wealth dwindles. You know, they have all these maids and this whole huge estate to keep up with. And at first, when you're reading it, it's like buzzing along, but then slowly, you kind of see its demise. And it's an amazing.
That's really cool.
Yeah, we don't have any stories like that in American folk tales or literature that I can. Yeah, just like this great kingdom on the hill that slowly. But I do think that we might be here now, you know,
well, because we're such a new society. Like America was the great experiment, is the great experiment, and we have, you know, like just shining, you know, crazy good times and stuff. But it does feel like there's a big shift in the force, you know.
Yeah,
like
and I think
a big shift, and it's and if you look at the history, and we talk about this sometimes on the podcast, like, you know, the rise and fall of empires, and China has been an ancient, you know, empire, and they've seen a lot, you know.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting.
Yeah, I think our kids, or maybe even our kids' kids, will be able to write the story of like of the Dream of the Red Chamber, of this like slow decline of a society. We're in the midst of it now, and it might not be the decline. I mean, you know, it might just be a little bit of a hiccup. It doesn't seem great though. You know, I feel like we were talking about the publishing industry earlier, and that to me forever has been the bellwether of what is going to happen in society. I mean, dig into that. That is so fascinating because it does, because what they choose to publish, and it is very much like it is a gate. You know, they have gatekeepers, and they run on trends. They run on.
I think honestly,
what's going to sell.
In my opinion, what you're seeing is you're seeing a lot of institutions that have started close to when the country was maybe, you know, earlier on the country's history, that are struggling to compete with newer technology that's coming out. So like, I see it a lot in the car industry. It's like these mainstream car companies don't know what they're doing. They don't know what to do, right? And they're slowly, like, you see them slowly kind of unwinding, being more and more confused as this new technology comes out, and these people who are out winning and beating them, right? Yeah. So like in the publishing industry, there definitely could be somebody who starts something that is a new age idea that just kicks everybody's ass, because they also don't really. To me, it feels like the publishing industry is very like selective, like overly selective.
Well, it's very old.
Like they don't want
It's a very old stodgy when you
old.
think about it. Like the original publishers, you know, and there were very few authors that would get published back in like turn of the century. You know what I mean? Like there were very few people that were like writing and publishing, and it was a very different kind of industry. And now it's kind of like we have and back in the day too, like books were really the only form of entertainment. Then we had radio. You know, the plays too, for sure, plays.
But podcasts have taken over radio. Like podcasts are the new radio. And the radio stations are dying slowly, right?
So, but it's happening so much faster.
Yeah, and like another thing too is like in the stock market is like, you know, our generation's not going to be able to play the stock market, but our new form of stocks is like cryptocurrency, right? So like you see that people become less interested over the stock price of something and more interested over what is the crypto technology realm becoming, and like. A lot of the main institutions I feel like are freaking out because there's a lot of people diverting their attention to something else. Like YouTube was a big shaker up for like, you know.
Yeah, people put so much amazing content.
Yeah, and
you
the
know?
movie industry in general too. It's like you have a lot of these independent filmmakers who are making better stuff than what Hollywood is making, and no one wants to see them. Like everyone's tired of it, right?
You said something extremely interesting. You said maybe one of these publishing companies is going to discover a new awesome way to do books.
Right.
That was awesome. I don't think like that ever. That thought never crossed my mind until you said
Really?
it. So thank you. So because what's happening now? Maybe you know about this.
No,
in
I
the
don't
publishing
know, yeah.
industry. I think a year and a half, 2 years ago now, Simon and Schuster, fifth biggest publisher in the world. They wanted to sell out. So Penguin Random House, the biggest publisher in the world, made of the two biggest
It used
publishers.
to be Penguin and used to be Random
And they-
House,
yeah.
and then I think when I was with them, that's when they combined.
merged.
Yeah, they merged.
Wow, that must have been spectacular.
Oh, it was. I'm out of the game now. No,
Yeah, so
it's one of the casualties of that.
they tried to buy Simon and Schuster, but they had to go face the antitrust laws. They didn't allow it. It was too close to a monopoly, cut down competition. So this private investment group called KKR bought them. KKR is the same group that bought Toys R Us. And they also bought a whole bunch of nursing homes, elder care facilities, and their basic business model is to take the industry they bought and liquidate the assets. So with Toys R Us, they sold all of the brick and mortar stores that Toys R Us had back to their private investment company, and then they made Toys R Us pay rent back to them every year or every month. And then on top of that, they did nothing to embetter the toys of the world. I mean, literally zero. And they forced their employees to hawk these high interest credit cards to the people that were still coming to the store, and they just watched the whole thing collapse. They were just sucking in all this money, and then once it was done, then they got to grab the bankroll of bankruptcy basically from the company, and then see you later, our hands are clean. So they just bought Simon and Schuster, fifth biggest company in the
I
world.
did not know this. When
Yeah,
was this? When did this happen?
In the last 6
So
months.
this is a private equity firm that's doing
private
this?
equity firm.
KKR.
Yeah, and this
I'm
is
looking it up right now. Actually, I
The
have it pulled
private
up.
equity firm thing.
It's
is
not-
it?
Guess who one of the
Sorry,
biggest shareholders is?
Who? I don't know this.
Jeff Bezos.
Usually they're owned by like one of the three companies is like one of the biggest shareholders. In this case, it's Vanguard.
Vanguard. Okay.
Okay.
I was just using Jeff
Yeah,
Bezos.
Henry
'cause
Kravis, who I don't even know who. I guess he's like the CEO. He's like the
Lenny
majority.
Kravitz?
yeah, we got our minds with him.
I wish he owned it. Be a lot cooler if he did. Yeah,
he's
they're okay. So nobody knows what's going to happen. You know, like we know what they've done to these industries that have brick and mortar, and they know. But this isn't the typical type of industry that they purchase. But then at the same time, we have the onset of AI into the entire world
God,
of
that
publishing,
scares- yeah, does
which
that
is
scare
scary.
you?
Yeah, and so you don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. The agents of the world, the publicists, all these people are like, you know, what is this going to look like? You know, they just formulated their board of directors. They're coming up with like who knows what maniacal ideas, but also they might be coming up with some sweet ideas. They might be coming up with
Maybe,
like,
yeah.
this is what I want them to do. If any of you bastards are listening, this is your plan of action, and it's a good one. I mean, they would capitalize on in a tumultuous time on the will of the people and do good for books in the world at large if they did this one thing. Instead of figuring out how to best utilize AI, you make a pact and sign it that you will not use AI at all in any part of the
love this. I
production
love
of your
this.
media. No, don't use it for the cover of your books. Don't use it for the copy material. And people will love that. You will be revered. You will gain everything that you lose from having to pay people to do these things back immediately. And it doesn't mean you can't use AI to figure out what kind of books sell and what types of marketing and distribution tools are most effective. Like that stuff is going to be seeping into every industry and probably already has. But the more that it seeps into the art part of it, the part that human beings are only capable and
like
have
the
only
actual
been.
content.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with
They
100%
would,
what you're saying.
they would.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love that. Every single person, as soon as you saw that press release, would exhale and be like, "Yes, okay, these rich assholes are not as stupid as we thought they were."
But
Yeah,
it
well,
might be a
we're-
good thing too if they fail too. Because what happens when they fail is somebody else can come along who's smaller, who does it better than they do. Right? This is the whole idea of capitalism, right?
Yeah.
And what we've done in this country is we've gotten away from just like letting things die. Like if they get bought out by Vanguard and Vanguard just uses it to suck all the money out like they do with everything, private equity firms are just, I don't even think they should be a thing, to be honest with you. But like it'll, that industry or that company will die and somebody will come along to make something better right out of the ashes. Like it's like the phoenix, but
it'll be one of the other 4 publishing companies on top of them that don't have. I mean, at least the thing is about everybody in the industry when this happened was like, okay, well, at least it's not a consolidation within the industry. At least it's not, Penguin Random House buying it. But at least I wish it was them. At least Penguin Random House has books in mind. They're going to try to sell more books. These people, nobody knows what they're going to do.
They're not for, it's not for books, it's for money.
Yeah.
It's for money.
Yeah.
But what you said about AI is so smart because it is shaking, I think every industry, but when, like my brother will call me and be like, hey, like I just typed in like one of my books, like the Blueberry Festival book, and write a cozy mystery about a blueberry in Michigan. And he like read me the back, the cover blurb, and I was like, damn it. Like, I mean, it wasn't my book, but you know what I mean? This thing was like coming up with a cozy mystery plot. And I thought, and I know like I have friends that are so concerned about this because sometimes, and I guess this is going on, like, let's say you just want to write your book and put it on Kindle and get it in there fast. You write your book, you put it in AI to edit it. It'll tell you how to make it stronger, and then you just upload it. And so for somebody like me, because we spend a lot of time thinking and creating a world that we want people to kind of come into our thoughts. Like books are very personal. It's the only thing. It's the only form of media. Like you are personally connected to that page, right? Because like I can say, read this book, and if you read it silently, your vision's going to be a little bit different than my vision. I thought his book was about a penis. We obviously know it's not. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of our own thoughts and we bring all of our background to the books that we read. And that's why some people get so offended if they read something like, I get sometimes this all the time, and you try when you write, try to just entertain, but they'll pick up a word, and I think somebody had a real issue with me using the word metrosexual because that made me sound really old, but I'm old. I mean, my characters are like mid-30s, so I think they could use that appropriately. But you know what I mean? They were like, "Oh my God, this boomer used the term metrosexual. That's so 2010."
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, hello, that's my, that's in my lexicon. I will know that. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're looking, everybody else who reads that, lets it fly. So you bring something very personal to the books that you're reading. And when you're writing, you bring something very personal, the story in mind. And to think that some crazy frickin' computer that can just scan everything and come up with a story, that's not human, and that shouldn't be accepted. And people who, like I use, thank God for spell check. It's kind of like AI, right? It misses half the things that I misspell. Like that's why, like I have an editor. It's like, I think one time, like when you're typing fast, and at my age now, I'm like sometimes like jumble the words together as I'm typing, and then spell check sometimes doesn't even highlight that. And I spelled one of my main characters' names. I forgot, and it was 2 L's on the end of the name. I only put 1. Missed spell check, and my agent read it, and she's like, "Oh, this should be 2 L's."
Yeah, that's.
So you cannot. You know what I mean? Because she knows in her head my characters how they should spell their names, and I make mistakes all the time, of course, with that kind of thing, because we're working in words so much. I try to be better, but I rely on spell checks sometimes to when I'm doing something too fast. But it's not perfect, and that's therefore like this AI type of thing is. I don't know. I know you use it in code, like to test your code.
Yeah, I use it a lot
to test your code, but it's crazy.
I think the interesting thing about it, and this kind of ties back to what you were saying about like these big companies and like maybe lack of innovation. But I guess this is my favorite fact and my favorite. Like I don't even know why it's a favorite, but it's crazy to me that the company that like broke through this barrier in AI was not Google, it wasn't Apple, it wasn't Facebook.
Oh, one of the big ones.
It wasn't a big company. It was OpenAI, which was like a small kind of startup-y company. And then you're like, so they just kind of killed it, and they made this insane product like a year ago. It wasn't even.
No, that
it's
is
been out for like a year.
Yeah.
So like they broke through this barrier. It was not it wasn't the companies with the most resources, which you'd think that they would, be able to. And then you have Google. I don't know if you saw that Google came out with their competitor Gemini.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see any of that?
No, I've seen a little bit about Copilot. which I
yeah,
think is the
Copilot's
Microsoft one.
ChatGPT. So
Oh, it is?
Microsoft
Okay.
bought ChatGPT,
I
so they like use
Yeah.
all their
Oh,
AI.
that's- okay, so
Yeah,
that's
Microsoft
good.
is slowly becoming another monopoly, a day every day.
Oh, they are. They're
They
Yeah,
basically
that's a
are.
whole thing.
It's-
But
yeah.
Google comes out with this thing called Gemini, and it is literally like so, like I guess woke is the right word to use.
Oh,
You
yeah.
ask it, be like, show me images of Nazis, and it'll be like black people and women and
Yeah.
like a Jewish
I have heard a
Nazi.
little
yeah,
about
yeah.
that.
And it'll
Yeah.
be like you're like, there's no white people
Yeah.
ever, and you'll be like, show me a picture of a pope. There's never been a black pope. It'll show the first image. It'll be a black woman pope or whatever. Or
Yeah.
like it just like
trying to break barriers, but it, no,
Yeah.
but
it's so
but
bad.
Historical content.
They had to take
matters.
they had to take the they had to take their product down. But it's like, how does a company who's like one of the largest companies in the
Yeah.
world has like maybe the most resources of any company? I mean, just they have everything going for them. How do they screw this up that bad?
Okay, so so you said that OpenAI, where what they kind of broke the ground with this machine that they built, and why didn't Google do it? So to me, there's a pretty clear answer, and that's because the way that OpenAI gained the ability to write the cover copy for your friends for the novel or come up with these images is by downloading a massive amount of content. And Google and any other of these large technological enterprises can't do that because there are so many undocumented copyright laws. People have not figured
That's
out the
really
rules
good, yeah.
for this thing. And so what happened with OpenAI is that they're this small company. Nobody has their eyes on them. They were able to illegally download literally millions of books and movies and pictures that from the original authors of these things that are not going to see a dime from it. And they were able to steal all of this and then make this machine to spit it all back out at us based on what our little prompts are. And and so if Google tries to do that, somebody's going to whistle blow and tell on them immediately because it really is ethically bad, legally ambiguous. And so but that's the tech industry's model, is like go into some place in the world that doesn't have clear laws and
copyright
rules
laws, yeah.
and change it so that it profits you strictly, and then everybody else is like, okay, well shit, we can't do this, and everybody's trying to make up for it behind them. And that's to me the worst part, is like there's going to be this massive theft of our livelihoods and our ability to create content, because everybody that's going to sit there and write their book using ChatGPT could be spending that time doing something that's actual, like a worthy thing that's going to help
and it
humanity.
makes you feel better
Right.
because like writing the whole thing is like it's cathartic in a way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you're telling your story, like you're telling this beautiful story or this fun story about two kids and growing up and using like personal experience and but it for that to and you took you 8 years, you said, to totally complete this, or to finish it to the point that you felt it was good, worthy of being published. And to have a computer do that in 2 seconds takes away the humanity from it. Like writing is human, very human.
Well,
I feel that
I think there's I think there's a difference between like having this AI write a book that is competing in your market and having something that you can like that's almost like a analyst or whatever, like in your pocket.
Yeah,
because I mean you can use
true.
it for like a cajillion different things.
Totally
like I've
true.
plugged legal documents in and be like, break this down for me, and it does a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Well,
like
it's
so
very helpful for that. But I have a friend that I was talking to yesterday, and she Robin Taylor, shout out to her, but she does a lot of charity work for an animal shelter by them in Tennessee. And she goes, I was, on the Facebook, there's always Facebook posts of dogs ready to be adopted. And she goes, and I just noticed like these posts were getting so good. Like they were really, they were great posts. And so they had a meeting, and she's like, who's taking over writing the posts for these dogs? And because the woman that did it before, she had a certain style, but these were really exceptional. So exceptional that they caught like the notice of like many other people, including my friend. And at the meeting, she's like, "Oh, AI is writing them."
Yeah, it's so.
So it can like really play on like you're trying to convince somebody to adopt an animal. So it's playing on your emotions, and they're so good. Whereas we might say like, "Oh, let's not be too shameless," like, or let's be real shameless.
Yeah, it might take customer data into like that. We were talking about that as well.
Customer,
like,
yeah, but
how like you go on one website and it'll start marketing things to you.
Or
like
just talk on your
immediately,
phone.
Yeah.
Like. Or talk
I
on the
keep
phone,
getting this
but-
cool ski machine that keeps coming up everywhere, and I want to buy it. I mean, it's like I want to ski in my basement,
Yeah, they're.
But it's shameless because literally it's the second thing I see if I pull up any social media it's like a friend and then the ski machine and then go to a different one. See a friend, the ski machine. I'll pull it up now. I'll show you.
Yeah, it's really
Compelling.
strange how well that they are able to capture the human spirit.
That could be
And
AI. Yeah.
I feel like the publishing world is, and you said it too. We have these blinders on, like, well, yeah, they're going to do all of these great things for us, but they're not actually going to write. It's not going to write books.
Yeah.
It's not going to make
It's
like the
not there
famous
yet.
art we
Yeah.
have and blah blah. But I feel like that is an incredibly injurious assumption to the entire
Yes.
process,
Well,
because
no
it
one knows.
is going to write books
It will,
that
yeah.
capture our imaginations
Right.
better than we are
Yeah,
capable of.
yeah.
And so then you're like,
And
okay,
all spelled correctly.
yeah, so how do you grapple with that? What if AI comes up with a book that literally changes the
next
face
Harry Potter,
of,
you know?
of literature?
Yeah.
Then what do you I mean, to me, if I was the asshole that made that, I would bury it immediately, because
Yeah.
I don't think that is it going to help other people write better books after learning from that? I don't.
No. People
I
can get
think
lazier. I think people have gotten lazier because it's
this-
like, go ahead.
What would you do with that book?
Okay, well, I guess I don't know. Well, what I was gonna say was, I think there's an assumption too. This is really interesting. Where like, and I don't know if people really know the answer to this, but the AIs get so good because, like you were saying, they ingest like content, like maybe copywritten content, and they learn how to replicate it. So if there's no new content, won't it just kind of be stuck at a certain point? Like, won't it? But like, that's the assumption, is that people think it can create, like, genuinely be creative and genuinely create new stuff that it can even like teach itself off of. And I don't know if that's true or not. It might need a continuous supply of like new, like, creative
think outside the
information.
box.
But
That's
Dan,
what humans
it's
are
also
good at.
it's AI. It's supposed to be its own entity. Like, it is supposed to be a
Thing.
person, a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is the whole complex like discussion too. Is like, is ChatGPT just like a computer, or is it a sentient thing, right? So like, I don't like that. You know what I mean?
Okay,
by
so
that? So
Yeah.
like,
the way that they began the creation of this is they downloaded. I don't know all of the specifics on this, and this was given to me secondhand from a friend that lives in Silicon Valley, very knowledgeable. I would call him a reputable source, but I don't want to like spout what he says as fact. But basically, what happened is they had the machine digest the entirety of the internet for 8 years. I think, between 2008 and 2016, somewhere in that realm. And so it ate all of this, and that's all of the content that it has right now. And all of the things that it spits out are based on those things. I don't believe that when you type things in and it spits something back out to you, it can't judge your reaction to it, really. It doesn't have any, but that's only because we don't have computers that are powerful enough to digest all of that information like in real time. But that's on its way. The quantum computer is capable of doing that, and it's a fictitious thing at this point. Do you guys know anything about quantum computers?
I do.
I don't know, so maybe you guys can tell me a little bit about that.
So like my understanding, and like, I guess I'm semi-qualified to talk about this because I don't know, not really, but I sort of know.
Okay.
So quantum computers, normal computers use like binary, which is like 1 or 0. So there's like a limit based on like, I don't know, the actual like fundamental like layer of a normal classical computer. Quantum computers use like essentially like probabilities, like a bit. Like classical computer, a bit can be a 0 or a 1. A quantum computer, a bit could be a 0 or a 1 or some probability of 0 or 1. So it can be like there's like an infinite continuum of like states
my
that this thing can
Lord.
take.
Yeah.
So that allows you to use different algorithms on a quantum computer that can be used to process. Basically, it allows you to use algorithms that you couldn't use on a classical computer to do certain things really quickly. Like one of the big ones with a quantum computer that's going to actually be like really, it's going to shake everything up, is it's going to be able to break encryption. Like the encryption we use today,
my
they'll be able to
gosh.
break encryption. So they're just going to have to upgrade encryption
Yeah,
across the
nothing's
board,
gonna be
which is,
safe.
and that's a pretty straightforward, like, oh, this is coming. We need to upgrade our encryptions to not use, or to be quantum proof or something
like
like
the
that.
2000 switch, you know?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, same
yeah.
thing.
So I don't know if I don't think you can really say that quantum computers are going to be able to like do this thing exponentially faster, because it depends on the algorithm that this thing can run. So it's like it's kind of limited in certain areas. It won't be able to completely replace classical computers. It'll be able to do certain things really well. That's my understanding of it.
Yeah, but sucking in the entirety of the media propagated by the human species and then using that to spit it back out at us in a way that we dictate is one of the things that I think it's definitely going to be able to do. I mean, so the way that it was described to me was that instead of just having binary zeros and ones, you now have 0 through 9, and every single one can be, you know, a 0 through a 9.
Mm-hmm.
And so the computing power, the ability for the computer to like take in information and organize it is, you know, exponentially improved. And so if you add that to just the general model of AI learning, where it is like downloads information, reorganizes it based on the prompts, and spits back something to you that you recognize as what you wanted, whatever your prompt was. So if the internet in its entirety can be downloaded every instant based on, you know, the changes in the content that happen on there every single day, and also it can ingest the new content that it makes and how people manipulate it to make it fit the human needs better, we are going to be in a world where it's pointless. Why would I even write a book?
Well, I think the assumption though that you're making, that I don't know if it's true, and this is kind of what I was saying before, is like, I don't know if it'll actually be able to create new stuff.
But we have so it doesn't need to be able to create new things.
Like just jumble.
It needs to just be able to compile the new things and hand it over to something that can create from it. And I also think that this piece of technology can't do certain things is to not give human beings enough credit, because we're eventually we're going to optimize this stuff. We're in the very beginning stages of it, you know, and like right now we're like, you know, we say, oh, well, it's never going to replace like people actually writing, and right now it isn't, you know, we've seen what it has produced as far as writing, and it's kind of not that great, but we've been doing this for 6 months, you know, I mean, in 10 years, we're going to be in a completely different landscape. And so to not prepare ourselves for like what it looks like when me sitting down in writing for 15 years just so I can come up with a book that I feel good about is one way to do it. But why would I even do that if I could think of one sentence that is compelling, type it into this machine with make me a book on that at the end, and it spits out this entire book that is better than you would be able to create on your own? Then what are we? What the hell have we become then? We have become inadequate compared to the thing that we've created. We've never had that before. We've never, that would be like, that is to go back, that's the Catholic vision of God. We are inadequate compared to the God above us. And it's the same thing with this AI machine. Like, we are making it so we become its inadequate.
Making God, basically.
Yeah.
Well, because it's all knowing, right? I don't know, but you have the very legitimate fear, and I think a lot of people have these fears, especially when you're a creative person. You've got this machine that can do things better for you. And we were just playing around with Dolly when we were doing a podcast, and we would say, Dan would type in, we were talking about the Christmas white elephant, you know, and we were typing it in, and it came up with so many versions of the white elephant. It was so detailed at Christmas, but it put a white elephant by a tree, and then you're like, make it cuter, and then it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then he made in 2 seconds. So imagine spending your life being a graphic designer or an artist and learning how to draw a cute little elephant. This thing that it spat out was crazy in just a matter of like not like 2 minutes. It was insane.
I bet you this is exactly how the workers felt when the Industrial Revolution came around.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
But it's happening to artists.
Yeah, they're like,
Instead of people who can do shit with their hands. Like,
I spent my whole life learning how to make horseshoes, and now some jackass makes a steam engine to do it for me.
Yeah.
True.
I was just in the Bloomfield Library, and they have the entire magazine section. Yeah, and I was like perusing the magazines. Many of them were featuring AI, articles about AI on the cover. And one of them struck my mind. I don't remember the magazine. But it had this amazing picture of like Thomas Jefferson with those triangle hats, you know, and like the long braid and stuff. But then, and then some of his skin was there, but part of his skin was peeled back, and he had this like machine head along with it, and it said, AI is here. This image was created with just a 7-word prompt. And so it's glorifying the fact that you don't need to find a person and say, I want a picture of Thomas Jefferson with a strange machine inside of him. You can just go on your fucking... Oh, are we allowed to?
No, you can say
There
so.
you go. Oh, yeah. I have heard, I've listened to many podcasts. I can say whatever I want. Okay, good. That's great. Yeah, so he... To boil down what that means for humanity, just a one magazine cover is like, we're no longer taking into account what an achievement it would be for the person that could have created that, and they could have paid that person, and that person could have created more things. They have cut that person completely out of the picture. So that's fine. That's one thing. But the real story here is that instead of they're going to do that, but they're going to glorify it. They're going to be like, we are so creative that we came up with 7 words that made this image. And that is such a, twist in the dagger in your heart. Like, yeah, that's what your computer came up with. It's pretty cool, but I bet you $1 million there's graphic designers all over America that would take the shot at your stupid 7-word prompt and make something that's equally beautiful.
Yeah.
And then, but wait a minute. But then what if we can't? What if we can't make it better? What if you gave that 7-word prompt to 100 graphic designers and then had people vote on them, and everybody unanimously chooses the one made by the computer? I mean, that's the fear. That's what, like, when we're like, oh, I don't know about AI, that's what we're afraid of. We are afraid that this thing is going to be better than we are at being human.
I don't know, because this is why I don't know that, because on what you're saying, and this is what I think to be true too, is that AI is the sum of all human content. Basically, we've crammed human. It's the sum of all information about humans, essentially.
Right. That's on the
so
internet.
how can something be better than the sum of all information about humans? Think about that for a second.
You know what
like,
it's gonna
how could
do?
it be better than where we are right now? Like, what is it gonna? That is where like the true creativity and ingenuity comes in. Can it actually extrapolate from the sum of all of its information to create something newer and better? I don't know if that's true.
I don't think so.
It might be, but I don't know if it's true.
I think innovation comes from, like, we're the only species
ether?
that can, well,
We got to tap into the
we
muse.
tap
But
into the collective
each person that makes this graphic design based on the 7-word prompt is going to have the entirety of the inspiration that they've been able to glean from their life experiences. The computer has the entirety of the information they've been able to glean from their life experiences, and the entirety of the information, feasibly that humankind has ever come up with, and that's the inspiration that they're working from.
Right, but you're working on inspiration that's from and people that you like and you've experienced or whatever, plus whatever God gave you or whatever you want to call it, where like you literally the thing that comes out of your pencil if you're drawing a picture for it, whatever, is from your brain to your brain telling your nerves and your nerves hitting your muscles and your muscles whatever. It's like it's a whole different thing and maybe some of that comes from somewhere else. I guess that's the thing that I don't know. Like maybe part of me thinks that ideas do come from like we as humans can just tap into it. We can tap into this like
the
this
collective
idea,
consciousness?
like whatever, and really create something new. And like maybe that's what you need to create something new. Like I don't know.
Well, we talk
seems
about
like maybe that's true though.
And I've talked to many authors that we've had come on here, and we had one, Libby Klein, and we had a Halloween book come out at the same time. And she goes, I read the back of your book, Darci, and it was so similar to mine. And I thought I was the only one that came up with this idea, and I was so proud of myself. And then I read and our books are 2 totally different things, but we both used a very similar, like, take on it. She had ghost hunters in hers, I had ghost hunters in mine. Whoa. She had, like just some weird things for Halloween, and it happens more often than you think. But it's like you're all trying to think of something different, and you're trying to really reach, and everybody else is trying to think of something different, and it's so funny. You know what I mean? But I think what AI is going to do, it's going to push us away from our computers. You know what it can't do? It can't grow food. It can't till soil.
That's a good point.
It cannot build a house or a machine to bind books. All it can do is tell us it's intellectual. That's all it is. It can show us pictures, and it can tell us what we think we want to hear, and it can try to sell me a ski machine that I'll probably buy
Yeah.
when I get enough money. No, I'm kidding. But you know what I mean? What it can't do, it can't be physical. And the world should be lived in the physical. We should live in the physical
It's sort of
world.
intangible right
Because
now.
everybody's afraid of it. And you're like, if I don't write again, whatever, I'll still tell stories, right? I'll still not on the computer. I'm like, you're not listening to this. But guess what happened to me the other day?
Yeah,
you
we
know?
still have pencil and paper. You can't hide.
We are going to be
it's actually
underground,
the easiest thing in the world to hide. You just do not look at your phone.
Exactly.
Then
Turn it off. Turn it off.
And don't use it to. I mean, I operate with a dumb phone. I don't have.
I think that's fabulous.
I haven't never had a smartphone, and now I think.
But you're smarter than most people we talk to. So not having a smartphone is making you smarter.
It does.
Makes
I
me
mean,
dumber.
it has great effects on my life. It really. I mean, I'm easily distractible. That's why I write, is because I can like take all the crap in my brain and like lay it out in a thing, and that really helps me. But that's the power. We have one ultimate power over AI, and that's to utilize it or not utilize it. You know, and so
it doesn't. If we turn it off, we would
Yeah, that's a good
never
point.
know it wasn't there.
It would
If we didn't
disappear.
give it information, it would die.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. I mean, everybody's so like caught up in all the crap that they read, and like, oh, the world's going to like, just like turn it off. It literally
Sometimes,
disappears
I do that with
immediately.
news. Sometimes I do that, like, and I have to be on social media a little bit, and that really makes me like jittery. Like the other day, I was on social media for a thing I had to do, and I was like, it's not natural for me, and I don't love it. I like to engage with people. I like that there were people behind it, but I think at the end of the day, like, I know, like, sometimes, like, my husband will get a little cranky after watching the news. And he thinks, like, every city is just full of murderers. And so, like, he scares me about you know what I mean? And you do, because you watch these things and all you're seeing are the bad. And then you turn it off for a while and just go outside. And, there are some crazy things out there, but, you got to be prepared. I think you can't be ignorant, but you also can't. I think everything tries to do that.
You can't worry
to
about
us.
it.
It has
this
our
is
attention, and it makes
it's a
us,
huge balance between like
yeah.
like I guess being prepared for something that might happen and whatever because of
Fearing.
all the fear
Fearing,
mongering, whatever. Yeah, I guess that is an element, but it's like you gotta like sort of be prepared for that and then just file it away and forget about it.
Yeah.
And like that's hard to do.
Yeah.
But I was gonna ask you a question actually. So like you're pretty unique in the sense where you're not like you kind of like made it a point in your life to like stay away from like smartphones, for instance, and like you manually bind your own books. Like,
well, yeah, and
where
we got
does
to talk
that
about it, because this is so.
and like, why did you start doing it? Like, have you always been like that?
You also have a blacksmith shop.
Oh yeah,
You're
the
like
blacksmith. We haven't talked about that. Yeah.
That's absolutely. I know. This is going to be like 1 hour longest conversation.
Well, yeah,
Sweet.
we've gone hour and a half actually.
Sweet.
But I think we can keep it rolling.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
we're on a roll.
I know
so.
Matthew had to bail because
he has to go somewhere.
no, to go to the bathroom.
Oh, he has to go to the bathroom. Oh, I think we also need to tear into this bad boy too. So let me.
Do you want to pause?
I don't know if we can pause.
No, we won't. We don't need to pause.
Okay.
I can.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't you go and I'll start pouring this out.
Yeah.
And
so what he's going to be pouring is this cider that
Can we
was
show that
made
to one of your
in
guys?
honor of my book, The Be Well Mead and Cidery in Bel Air, Michigan. One of the few places that you can buy my book without going onto my website.
I love it. I love it.
And yeah, so we're going to drink a little bit of that. It's a single variety cider, so it's made from one apple called the Golden Russet
Okay,
apple.
I like cider. I don't like beer. Is that funny? I
Yeah,
like cider.
This stuff is there's no cider. I'm a veritable expert in the world of cider. I've been working here for a year drinking cider, but this stuff is extremely unique. It's like kind of clear and effervescent, and it's 8% alcohol, so it's a pretty heavy drink, but it doesn't feel heavy at all. It's nice and light.
I just think it's so neat. You're in so many different things. When I read your because I asked you, I said, "Oh, come up, like, do you have a little bio or whatever?" And you wrote the most beautiful, like one of the most well written emails I've ever gotten in my life. It was wonderful.
So nice. I pored over that thing for a while because I don't have an author bio.
No,
I'm not.
I mean, you should use that. It was amazing. And so,
agitated at all? Or?
No, it'll be fine.
but you're such an old. What came off the page was like, this is an old soul.
Oh, thanks.
Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like you're here on a journey. Oh man, Daniel.
Oh,
you're spilling all over.
the sum of all fears, a spill on the great electronic mega. This is how you kill AI. You dump some cider on that.
Yes. Yes. We open up the beer stash and just this looks gorgeous.
Yeah, so maybe
This is
so
beautiful.
I have
This is
many
beautiful.
thank you for recognizing my talents. I really
Oh
appreciate
no,
that.
we love. That's what we do here.
It takes an immense amount of time to like do this stuff. I play 5 instruments well, 2 of them not well.
Oh my God, you're like a
but I mean
genius.
I've wasted 0 time in my life on a smartphone. I've
that's-
literally, I've never sat there and scrolled through things for 10 minutes in my life. And at first, when the world began to change and everybody started to get smartphones, I resisted at first because I was comfortable with what I had, and I was able to bear witness to some amazing changes in the people in my life.
Oh, I think that's so smart.
Yeah, and my boss she didn't have a smartphone, and then she did, and she was a
Where were you
completely
living
different-
at this time? 'Cause
Salem, Oregon.
Okay, so I know you've started out in California. You grew up in California?
No, grew up down near Grand Rapids.
Okay, so
Michigan.
you're originally a Michigander,
Yep.
but you've lived many places.
Yeah, I moved out west, and I lived there for about 10 years. I lived in Oregon for 8 years, California for 2 years. So this was right when I moved. I moved in 2011.
Did you move it?
And we'll never know till later. So I moved in 2011, and this was right when a lot of people had smartphones. It wasn't a requirement for everyday life, but people were glomming onto them at an amazing rate.
Oh, I resisted too because the boys were like, "Mom, you need a smartphone," because they were going off to college, and I loved my little old-fashioned flip phone. Right, it was very. I could call, and I still prefer. Like the boys will tell you, I don't text them.
Yeah.
I call them, and sometimes I'll shoot off a quick text. But you're absolutely right.
Yeah, the change.
I resisted because
the way that
I didn't
people
like it.
began to act, it changed immediately overnight. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have a smartphone, and then you do have a smartphone, and all of a sudden you're connected with the entire world anytime you want to be.
And I don't think we're designed for that.
I watched that happen to like 10, 15 people, and now it's everybody. I don't know my Uncle Todd. He's the only person that I know that doesn't have a smartphone. And
Yay, Uncle Todd! You
Yeah.
just hold out.
yeah,
hold out.
I mean, I think he will, because he saw the same thing I did, like this drastic change in the way that humanity's acting on a daily basis. But and one of the results of that is like more time is wasted now than ever before in the history of humanity.
I agree.
The amount of the collective human talent has gone down more in the last 20 years than it ever has in all of history, and we're just trying so hard to continue that trend. We're like eating it up, you know, on the front of these magazines. It's like, we didn't do anything to make this. We just typed
Yeah,
something into a computer,
exactly.
and it's glorified now.
And
Yeah,
like-
the content is so low effort these days.
It's
Yeah.
like the Instagrammers; they have no talent. So I mean,
Yeah.
some of them
I
they're
was-
just like, oh.
Man, I was thinking about this
We got
today.
cheers.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
so yeah. Before I
Cheers.
take so what is this called? Cheers.
Ordinary time.
This is ordinary.
Oh, that's
time.
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love it. Oh my god, see, ordinary time.
Mm-hmm.
And,
that's
oh
good.
my gosh.
Oh, wow.
First
Yeah.
of all, I love the
That's
color,
really good.
because
Yeah. Kinda
I
light.
drink my favorite is Pinot Grigio. It's a very light wine, and cider is my second favorite.
This is excellent.
I disclose this while it's 8%. So like, you know, you can.
Oh, that's delicious.
It's
Oh,
2:00 right
It'll
now.
get
or
you
something.
tuned up.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, it's after afternoon.
It's after
sometime.
3.
It's after 3. Nice. We're doing great.
Yeah, but what I was saying is like you'll just have these people who just put in like the most OnlyFans is literally the definition of this shit. Like literally, they don't have to do anything. Like they just have to like
Take their clothes
take
off.
their
Sexy.
clothes off, and they
Yeah.
get paid like $100,000 a year, and
Yeah.
you're like, what the hell? And then you look at some like the main popular YouTubers are not doing anything spectacular except for like a few exceptions, right? But I remember back in the day there was this YouTuber I used to watch. His name was like Ethan Klein, like H3 was his channel, and he would be made fun of this guy who would literally just steal someone's
Oh, bits.
video and just say, "This is totally me," and then he would play the video and he would like talk about how like he's just stealing people's content.
Wow.
And that's all it is nowadays. Is you get
Curating.
some idiot who has no talent in like critiquing anything. It's just like, that is totally right, dude, and then he just plays the video and people just eat that shit up.
Wow.
Oh,
I
man.
You know what I mean?
I don't. I mean,
No,
I
you don't,
the,
because
the
you're off
specter
it, yeah.
of YouTubers is a foreign thing to me. I mean, I really don't have much contact
I don't-
with the world of YouTube,
Yeah.
except for like
Fair.
a few, you know, like the National Writer Series I was talking about. I like dive pretty deep
Yeah.
into that stuff, but I don't have the ability to like scroll through. And I've been on my wife's phone and friends' phones before, and so I get the concept where like you go on the screen and more is just fed to you based on
Yeah,
what
it's
you've
like
done
apps.
already.
Right.
Yeah, and so I get the idea that like it's inescapable. Like once you start, you don't even realize that you're 15, 20 minutes into it and you haven't done anything. And have you learned anything
No, it's just
It
pictures.
depends.
It's
it
just
depends
moving.
on what
Depends
you
what you
watch.
watch.
Yeah,
think
that's
that.
what you
I think
watch.
that.
Like,
and also what you
you-
do with it, because like you learn so much, but it's like water, going into a sink and then down the drain. You got to
Yeah, how
plug
am I
up that
gonna apply
drain, and
it?
you got to go and do something with what you just saw, otherwise it disappears.
right. And I think all of us in this room
It's
have used it
delicious.
to do that too. Like YouTube, I go to YouTube if I want to learn how to
Oh yeah.
like I'm into firearms, right? So
Uh-huh.
like I like modding them out and stuff, and like I'll go into like, why is this do this? How do I put this on there? Like stuff like that.
Yeah.
and
Yeah, it is
apply
How do I put a
Amazing.
grenade launcher on my pistol?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the legal process for buying a grenade launcher?
I'm so happy about this.
Yeah.
No.
I
No,
do
but you
I
can
do
learn
car
anything.
repair.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
like
yeah.
a
Oh,
great
it's
place.
huge for car repair.
Yeah, it saved
Yeah.
me millions, I
Yes,
think.
no, and kudos and God bless the people who take the time to film themselves
Yeah,
doing
no
that have a
kidding.
skill that do that, because
And for free
I've learned
too.
like even how to upload a video onto YouTube. Like it doesn't come naturally to me how to do these things. But Matt, to your point, I was trying to find a comedian, the little bit for the bounties. And
Oh, the Shane Gillis one.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it couldn't come up. It was like I forgot which one it was, but I had a guy showing that video, a YouTuber. That's the only way I could find it, and he was laughing through the whole thing in a little circle. And I'm like, "What did we watch?" It was so distracting. It was this funny video
Yeah.
I was trying to show my
Yeah,
friends, and I
it's-
was like,
They have it's just like so low effort. It's sometimes they do
I
that to
realized
get
that
around
was-
like
yeah.
the cop. So like what I've seen people do is like they'll illegally stream like a UFC fight, and the only way they can get
Right,
away with
right.
it is if they claim it as their own like content. So they have to like change how it looks.
What they'll do is they'll
Yeah.
flip the image.
Yeah, I've
that's
seen that.
that's one that's weird. They'll mirror it, so it's like a mirror
Oh,
image.
oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, or they'll put themselves at the bottom so that they don't get copyrighted. So like once in a while you can catch a UFC fight on Twitch, and it's just funny, and like it's totally like not. It shouldn't
"So
be.
Matt
on
spends
it,
a lot. Matt spends maybe a little
A
too
lot-
much
a lot of-
time online.
Like
It's hard as a parent.
a lot of my friends are there. Like I grew up in the age where like it wasn't the internet wasn't. I
You
didn't
weren't-
grow up where it was like not really a thing. It was kind of starting like the '90s, but like kind of grew up in an age when it was like really fun. And, like,
Social
everybody.
media
Yeah.
really took off like 2010 and the teens. That's when it kind of really just
Yeah,
hit. Like that was
yeah.
like the big.
Yeah,
Like, everyone got a Facebook and like
the
Yeah.
iPhone came out
The
in
iPhone.
2008.
yeah.
And at that point, Facebook was strictly for college kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but yeah, I think right around 2010, 2011, they opened it up to anybody. And also, there was MySpace too, which was a phenomenon. But Twitter came out right about 2008, 2009, and like the kind of short, smart, quick way to interact with the world.
Yeah, it's crazy how one thing takes over and the other thing is just not there anymore.
Yeah.
You know, just
but,
it's fast.
I mean, my friends and I like reminisce about what the internet was like. 'Cause
Really?
it was
You're so young.
much funnier. You could get away
Yeah.
with just the weirdest shit was on it. Like early YouTube was like hilarious because
Yeah.
it was just like it was like it was all shot terribly. Like it's
Yeah,
just
it
some
was like,
dude
it
doing
wasn't
something
professional.
stupid.
It was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, and they could pull whatever they want. It was crazy, like the stuff they would get away with on there. Like they could just like put anything on there.
I was in a restaurant last night. We were talking about like the great consciousness above feeding down into you, and you
Yeah.
feel like you're a conduit. Writing
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
out. Yeah,
that's how
I-
writing is.
Yeah, I had one of those moments last night. I was at this place in Troy near my hotel, but this table full of girls sat down kind of kitty corner to me. There were 3 of them, and then there were 8 or 9 of them by the end.
Bachelorette party.
And, yeah, I'm not sure what they were doing there, but it was so fascinating to me because they didn't talk with each other. They had their phones and they were like constantly, and then they would like talk but still have their phones out. But then they were doing this thing that I haven't seen before. It was like a completely new. They like
great.
one
You're
of them
such
would
an observer.
like go like this and start like rapping into the, and then she would like
No.
go like this, and then her friends would start interacting with it, and then she would be interacting with it, and then she'd go back like this, and then she'd put it down, and then they would kind of continue their conversation. So like their whole interaction was punctuated by these moments where they had to perform for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Right.
It was so
Dana
fascinating.
kind of does that because
Yeah, yeah,
she's an Instagrammer, and so she has Our
She's
She's so good at consuming.
Is this your girlfriend?
No,
She's no,
our pod,
it's my cousin.
Our
Oh,
pod
okay.
manager.
Oh, this is your pod
This is my
manager.
girl.
Okay.
We don't live in the South.
yeah.
I didn't mean to offend anybody, but I want to know about this because I've never
We're
seen that
strictly
before.
third
Like,
cousins in this.
what's the
She's,
motivation? What are they
late
doing?
20s,
Okay.
white girl, lives in New York. Really, really, really good at consuming things.
She's adorable. Yeah.
Just everything you can think of,
trendy.
like, liquids that flow fast, liquids that flow slow, and liquids that come out of men's penises.
Okay, we're
This
gonna.
is your cousin you're talking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
here.
yeah.
Thank you.
Matthew.
Mhm.
You know what? Someone's got to humble her a little bit.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, she's gonna listen to this.
I hope she doesn't.
I hope she
Oh
does.
wow,
hope
now she is.
She won't listen. It's
No,
too
she's
long.
a bad
If
pod
it-
manager.
if
Yeah,
it's
we're
not-
2 hours
in.
in. Yeah,
She
she's
will
not.
never get to this point. But
Listen,
Uncle
I heard
Randy
she
might.
dated. She dated maybe I shouldn't talk about it, but she dated
We
somebody.
shouldn't talk shit about our cousin. We
No,
shouldn't do it.
no.
We
Oh,
love
there you go.
her. She's
Yeah, she's cool.
She's like my daughter.
What
Dana's
is it? What is she? What was
No, but
happening? Like I
she's-
need. Yeah.
She's a very good. So she has a really good Instagram account, and she does. She's very skilled at it. But they are of an age, right? And they're cute girls, and they travel a lot, and they do a lot for social media. So it's fun for me to see where they've been. Like I will say that I always watch their stories because she does really cute. She's a good photographer. She does. Just little clips of things that they're doing, and she's always doing something fun, so it's like a thing. So she's sharing it to, well, probably not. I'm probably not her target audience, Aunt Darci, but like for other people to see. And so there is something about it where it's like she takes time out of her day to oh, I got the latte at so and so, or I'll do their new shoes.
Yeah,
or-
you're like showing the world how
it's
like
very
it's a-
selfish.
and then when you break it
It's
down,
very
it is kind
selfish.
of interesting. But
hate this-
it's a. I think it might be a girl thing.
No,
It's not.
it's
Okay.
not.
It's
Okay.
I hate this like culture so much, and that's why I generally just stay off social media.
Right. You
I don't
do.
know why, but I'm very lucky where like I can just be fine not
Right.
looking at Facebook.
And then
what-
we have this
like,
podcast though, and I'm like, Dan, can you please share this on your social media? And he's like, crickets.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Has she read your book? That sounds like somebody. Does she read books?
Dana
Dana,
is
this is
an
a great
avid
book.
reader.
Oh, she is.
She is an
She actually-
avid
yeah.
reader, though. She is like.
I'm so mystified by
Such
these.
a-
They're,
I hear
they're
you've been
like
having
these.
some trouble with meeting men, Dana, and this is all about young boys, and this will get you in the psyche, okay?
Ordinary time.
Because I know you've been having trouble. I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna give you the best advice that none of your friends are ever gonna tell you. Don't ever ask somebody how much they make. Okay, stop doing that. That's bad.
Oh my god,
That's
All
real
right.
bad. Stop
We're
doing
gonna
that.
change the subject.
I thought you were going to
Yeah, what
spoof
else?
my book. Yeah.
No, this-
the
this-
best
but
advice
if you
that
want-
we can give you for men is
you
to
wanna
read
know-
this book and
And-
share
and
it with
young
all of
men
your
too.
friends.
Get in the psyche. But if you're a woman, get in the male psyche. Okay.
Men are vulnerable,
If
too.
Men, we already have something like
that?
this for women. It's called Target. Okay. You want to know what the female psyche is? Go to Target. You'll figure it out. But
If you want to know what the male psyche is, read
Read
Ordinary
Ordinary
Time.
Time.
Go onto my
Right.
website, arrow-publishing.com, and buy a copy for all of your friends.
I love
That's
it. I love
exactly-
Aeropod, and we're gonna post that link for sure. when we-
Shamelessly spoofing my book. That's what we're
No,
here
you
for.
gotta do it.
you know, I have a business
Gotta
idea
do
for
it.
you too.
Oh yeah.
If you are someone who wants to self-publish, maybe he can make your book for you.
I can, yeah. Send me a query letter. If you go onto my website, arrow-publishing.com, and you buy a book, and you open it up to the, what do we call this page? The copyright page. At the top is my P.O. box. You can send me your query letters and first pages.
That
And I
is
will consider
awesome.
publishing your book along mine. We'll have to have many discussions about what that looks like, because at the current moment, the distribution of the books is a quagmire. I don't quite understand.
that's why traditional publishing. That's really the difference between
Oh, like
people just
logistics?
putting it, uploading to Kindle, or traditionally published. Now, traditionally published, they do like everybody takes a chunk out of what you do. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody.
That's why I'm doing
You
this.
get not much, right? So people like you're the creator, but in the end, people are doing your cover, they're editing, they're producing,
Yeah.
and most importantly, distribution.
Yeah.
Because that's you're getting your book in a bookstore. Like smaller like bookstores, you can have a personal relationship, and maybe that would whatever. But you have to be very creative. Even
yeah.
traditionally published authors, like my books now, like my one series is a mass market, and a lot of bookstores don't want to carry mass market. So distribution wise, it's I think it's Matthew.
Yeah,
All right,
it is
fill
quite a
up.
quagmire.
It's a quagmire for everybody.
That's what I mean. This
But
this
God
book
bless you.
I'm making. I'm selling my book for It's $14 online because I have to pay for
Right,
shipping.
right,
costs.
for shipping. So did you
But-
figure all that out too? Like,
Oh yeah, this. So
$10
I'm.
is a steal for this.
I mean, yeah, it's a trip behind the curtain here. So it's an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, cut into quarters, and so I get 4 books per every piece of paper that I use. And I can make them. These ones here were printed.
Let me back up a minute. For a handmade product, and you're only selling it for $10.
I mean, yeah, that's how you get more people to read it. And I'm making so much. The percentage, I think most authors are in like the 7 to 7.5% if you like sign with a normal publishing company.
Yeah.
I'm making 70. With these ones, I'm making 70%, but I'm
Because after your cost and your whatever. and
yeah,
your labor.
they're printing them for $3.50 a piece, and the glue and whatever that used to make it is marginal.
That is
and
inspiring.
it takes me 6 minutes a book to make them, and so it's very little of my time as well. And so
but it's a labor of love, and it's like you've done such a wonderful job with it, and you're such a literate person. Like you're super
you.
intelligent. I mean, like we can tell. Like we love talking to intelligent people.
Did we talk about how we recorded the process of him?
Yeah, so we did
Yeah.
something really
Yeah.
special today. Why don't you tell us what this is?
Yeah,
Because
go
this
ahead.
is so
yeah,
interesting.
So this entire thing is created by me. It's like this one specifically wasn't, but now they're all printed in my bedroom upstairs, and on just like a regular old printer, I take them down to a copy shop in Bel Air where they cut them into quarters, and then they bring them back to me, and I simply glue the pages together. I put glue right here, and then I put glue over here and here. You'll be able to see the video, and you have yourself a book.
Yeah.
And when I finished this, I've been writing for 15 years. This book specifically for 8 years, and I had been doing tons of research about what it means to become an author. You write your query letter, you send out your query letter. Most of you are familiar with this, or at least somewhat know. And it goes into the slush pile. That's what they call it.
Sometimes they don't even read it. Sometimes.
I mean, they don't. Of course, they're not. They get thousands of them. There's hundreds of thousands of these things in slush piles. It's super. You need luck. Janet Ivanovich, the best-selling female author of all time.
Is she?
Yeah.
Janet Ivanovich?
She went through 3 books nobody wanted, and then her 4th book somebody picked up, and she said later, yeah, you need to write a good book, and you need to market it the right way, and you need a whole lot of luck. And like, I'm not going to take this thing that's my entire life and just like leave it up to the hands of luck. I want to have a book and like begin to sell it right now.
Right. And I think so many people who write come to that conclusion because you put so much of yourself on that page. You spend a lot of time, like you said, it's taken you 8 years, but you've been a writer for 15, and you've come up with this lovely book. And then all of a sudden it's like, you're going to get probably a lot of rejections right off the bat just because the way the publishing industry works is just the way it is. It is like being struck by lightning. And I do realize like how lucky I have been, and I do consider it luck, because the only reason I got published at all is I think it was because of my last name, and the agent who picked up my book, it was she wouldn't accept any unsolicited queries, which is tough. That means you have to be referred by an author. And my last name is Hannah, and they do handle Kristen Hannah.
Oh, wow.
It's like, Kristen's ugly younger sister. No.
Yeah, that's so funny, because I mean that's like all of the stories that I hear
But
is
it was just, I was kind of to my wit's end, and I'm like, I didn't train to be an author. Like, you don't train to be an author. It's just something that hits you. I think you can train, but it's like you're drawn to it for a reason. And I thought, but I kept trying because my kids were little, and I didn't want them to see me fail. So I just kept trying to be
nice.
happy about it, because it's like life is hard. And if you have a passion, I was always told, I was very lucky that my parents were so awesome about it, but like, you can do whatever you want to do in this life. You just have to figure out the way. And you have figured out your way. I didn't have probably the resources, and I just kept shooting out query letters, and each one became almost a challenge. It's like, every time you say no or you got a rejection, it just brings you closer to that. And your dad says this a lot, brings you closer to that yes, And it's you just kind of wait them out. And I've been through the up and down, like I got rejected probably from everybody, but I know who I've got rejected from.
Yeah.
And because
they're on your shit list.
Yeah.
No, I have the things.
They're on my kill list.
Right.
not my fuck list.
So says the gun enthusiast.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say something.
But yeah, so
No, but
anyhow,
no, but-
it's amazing that you have taken this into your own hands, because so many people give up, or they're like, I'm just going to upload it onto Amazon, which is a great way to get your book out, but it's not a physical book. It's not hand, like part of the book is the experiences holding it too. And I mean, I have a Kindle. I love my Kindle, but I love books, and like it's such a brave move. And I think you're going to have a lot of people. Hopefully, if you're listening to this and you're a writer, please reach out to Austin, because he's got some great advice for you.
He's a good writer. He's a very good writer. He should be published. Like, seriously. And also too, like,
Well, he
we're
is
thinking.
published.
Well, he's published, but I mean, he needs.
I'm not letting
Money.
the monsters
more
into
money.
this. I want to be.
Yeah.
I want to become the monster.
You should. Yeah, no, that's a good philosophy too.
Become the
But
monster.
We recorded him binding his books.
It was so fascinating. He first of all,
So,
he was saying,
and we'll put that up
yeah,
with the video.
we're going to try to
So-
intersperse it with this, but I don't think we're going to do that, because it's such a cool process. It'll run right after our podcast, and we will actually put it out there separately as well, I think, because so he said, I'm going to bring my binding machine, and I'm like, oh, like, okay, like, 'cause, I mean,
We're gonna have to rip down one wall of your house, remove most of your kitchen.
I know. So like, how big is this binding machine? But we actually were able to put it. Yeah, we thought it was so cute, because you thought our office was a little bit bigger, but yeah, this is right.
Based on just so everybody out, because I was a watcher and listener of the podcast before I got to come on here, and I got the view that you are all watching, and I think in my email I was like, it's no problem.
Yeah,
This
we'll
thing
be
is
able
going-
to fit in your
this is
office.
going to fit in your office, no problem. And it's small. That you guys do a great job of like expanding the space that you guys
Yeah.
are.
We do.
It's super cozy though. It's really nice in here.
It's
Yeah.
fun. It's cozy, and it's like a good room. It's a very good feel. It's like light. Where got a good.
Yeah, me and Matt, we bunked in this room for most of our lives.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
knew there was a smell.
Good energy.
that
There's a smell.
There's stains you cannot get
I
off the
have
carpet.
tried.
Like,
I cleaned this carpet, but I got it. I told Matt, because Matt was going to be moving back. We're switching everything up, and that's why we've been like kind of we haven't put out a podcast every week like we normally try to do, because we're all in a state of flux right now. But I told Matt, like, you can have this room back. I'm going to be moving to another spot in the house. But when you leave, I am ripping up the carpet this time. I learned my lesson. I'm going to get new carpet.
Jesus.
No, kidding. No, I don't mean anything, but I'm just saying it's
You
time
might
to
want
change.
to. Actually, I agree.
Oh my
Burn.
God, stop.
okay,
Invite me
anyways.
to that bonfire.
I
Please.
was
That sounds.
I wanted to kind of bring something up too. I've kind of talked about this before, but I feel like the kids, or like public school maybe, I don't know, the whole like educational systems really, it kind of trains people to be afraid of failure, which I think is kind of the wrong way to do things. I think you need to like fail over and over and over and over and over again until you like achieve what you're trying to achieve.
I think that's good.
And I've experienced that with other projects that I've done in my life, and other, like, whether it's a career thing or a side project or something, it's like persisting through like a crazy issue
makes
and
you
going down a journey, and like producing, like, I mean, as writers, you've probably produced like, what's published of your writing is a small percentage of your writing. So it's like, but you've
All
done
the
so
crap
much,
I have, yeah.
and each one of those things has gotten you closer to like getting where you want to be.
But it builds character. We learned ways not to write a novel. We got better at writing. We got better at the English language. You know what I mean? Like for writers only. But like you tried to build a big coffee roaster. I'm still waiting for my coffee. But like from the ground up. Like and Matt designs guns, but you shouldn't probably say that on air. It's kind of weird.
It's pretty cool.
It is. But you know what I
Really
mean?
cool, dude.
But you got it. Like these passion projects, they build character and they develop something in ourselves. Like playing an instrument. It's real hard to play an instrument. Once you crack that code, it gets a little easier. So I think it's really cool to have a dream, and even though it seems insurmountable, or it seems, I'll never be able to do this, don't tell yourself that. Just keep trying.
But I think people are so afraid of like failing. They're so afraid
They
of
are.
failing. But it's like, that is what you should be trying to fail over and over and over again. Like, maybe
Yeah.
you should be trying to fail, but
or just
like
taking a
failure
leap
should
of
just be
faith.
like, it should be like, yeah, no shit, I failed. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get it on my first try. Like,
Yeah, well, like Janet
but
Ivanovich,
that's
yeah.
so far out of like the mindset of people, especially like young people. I know, like, I was working with a guy who would go in and volunteer at like a high school to teach the kids how to like code and stuff, and they were so reluctant to even like approach a problem because they were afraid they were gonna fail. And it was just so crazy. And you're like, you gotta just dive in and you're gonna fail. Like first couple times, you're not gonna know what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
so.
because you can't be proficient at everything without working hard. I think But
Yeah,
that's,
the failure is fun. I mean, people search out videos of epic fails all the time, and like I like making bows and arrows, and I suck at making the bow part, but the arrow I'm pretty good at. But I've made I think like 15 bows now, and two of them shot few hundred shots before they broke, but the rest of them broke right away, and it's spectacular. So cool. It's like an explosion, and then the one that like breaks in your hand, you're just like, I mean, it just like no, none of them hurt. I did almost like
shoot yourself,
blow up my whole living room. One broke in my living room, just boom, like wood splintering everywhere. But that's like the really fun part about it to me. I mean, people maybe they're afraid of failure, but they also just don't realize that it's invigorating to fail. It's results. It's what they said on Mythbusters. Adam Savage.
I loved Mythbusters.
This is result. Like who cares if it's good or bad? We know now that this is the way to not do it.
It's just getting messy, getting in there. We they grew up on Mythbusters. But how many times did you fail before you, like, how did you come to the process of actually making your own binding machine? Which is really...
actually, I haven't failed at that. I mean,
it's
funny, but I'm not joking around because it's so easy. It's crazy easy. It's like you take.
Well, you have all the skills though. You've got metalworking.
But that was to make the machine to do it
right. We
quickly.
love the machine. We're going to show pictures of that.
But too. I'm doing this actually April 4th. If you're listening in
where are you going to be?
Sorry, April 3rd, 2nd and 3rd at North Central Michigan College.
Okay, so that's coming up.
And, April 3rd is at noon is the event, and this is going to be my first time doing an event where we're going to be walking through the process of binding a book all together as a class, so I can show everybody how easy it really is. Because this is like the story of the epiphany about this idea. So I'm finishing up this book, and I am confused about how I want to go about publishing it. And I'm sitting on the couch watching a movie it's a television show with my wife. It's called New Girl.
I love that. I love
that show.
So the main character, Nick, is a writer. He writes a zombie novel.
Love Nick.
Never comes out or anything. But then he writes the Pepperwood Chronicles.
His
girlfriend at the time. I forgot her name, but she is in the pharmaceutical industry, and
Megan Fox.
Is that her
name? That's the actor.
Yeah,
actress.
So she books him a gig where he's going to talk about his book at this bookstore, and he's like, I don't even have a book yet. And so Zooey Deschanel, his roommate, as any good roommate does, gets out all of her crafting supplies and just makes him a book, and then he has a book to go do his thing at. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm definitely going to do
So you were inspired by New Girl.
That's awesome.
By New Girl,
love it.
which is like totally contradictory to everything that we've been talking about. Like watching television shows are bad, It's funny how it goes.
Inspired my writing as well.
But it's like I said, like you got to plug up that drain. You got to go and actually freaking do it. Like I learned how to make a book, but then I a quick search on the internet. How are softcover books bound? I found out it's called The Perfect Binding is the name of this. And I learned that it's nothing more than just glue on the spine of the book. And so at the time I was editing my book, so I'm staying at home with my one, at this time he was like a tiny baby. He was like this big.
How old is he now?
He's 1.5
oh my God,
now, but at
age.
this time, so I'm holding him like this.
It's a little chunk.
And he's in my lap, and I'm feeding him his bottle, and I have my manuscript over here, and I'm editing it, and that's how I polish the final. It was amazing when I realized that I could do that, so I figured I'm just gonna glue the edge of my book together, whatever. So I take the 8.5 by 11
Zoe
sheet.
can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, that's the truth. So I put the thing just like this on the edge of a table, and I put a brick on top of it, and like one of those big concrete ones. This is an 8.5 by 11 sheet, and I just like literally I took Type Bond 3 wood glue, strongest glue on planet Earth thing. I just friggin' glued that thing up, and it just stayed together.
Isn't that amazing? So this is like the naughtiest trick played on me. My younger brother, Ron, I told you because it was April Fool's Day, which is coming up. And I loved reading as a kid, so I'd always have this great book. And one of my pleasures was like, going to bed and getting to, read my book. And he took rubber cement and glued my pages. The whole book. And so I get in bed, and we shared, like, we had a Jack and Jill bedroom, like Jack and Jill bathroom. So, like, his bedroom was here, and then we had a bathroom in between. And I think I, like, put cellophane over the toilet for him.
Oh, nice.
But I'm sitting there, and I'm trying to read my book, and I'm, like, opening up, and it chunked open. And I was like, what the hell? And then I screamed. I was so mad.
Yeah.
But that was the greatest trick. But just rubber cement. And that ruined my book.
Okay, so I said that I didn't fail, and that's a little hyperbole. So the failure is going to be slower, and nobody's going to find out about it until A, they listen to this podcast and I tell them all, or B, their book falls apart.
Right, yeah.
Because the first 150 copies of this that I did it with Elmer's glue.
Oh.
And I found out later that Elmer's glue is non-archival. It has acids in it.
No.
And so
so it slowly eats away.
it's going to
Really?
it's going to eat. And so this thing's going to be like sitting on someone's shelf, this
But
revered
old.
first copy, and they're going to open it up and it's just going to crumble, flake off. This one will not. I have archival glue now. If you buy one of my books,
you
get
actually have archival glue.
archival glue. Yeah. It's,
Never knew there was such a thing.
yeah, neither did I. It's the world. It's been my favorite part about this journey has been to learn about the world of paper and
ink,
books and
yeah.
stuff. Like there's people, if you go into a copy shop and you're just like, oh, this is, like they just print stuff off, but it's so fascinatingly, first of all, imagine the organization that you need.
Mm-hmm.
Everything looks exactly the same. And so they have like these huge, I mean, I don't even know how they do it. And they have ways of like jogging to get all the pages to line up, like ding, ding, ding,
Oh,
ding.
yeah,
It's called jogging. And they have this crazy way that they hold the pages and like hit them on everything about a copy shop is like, you walk in there, it's just a bunch of printers and paper. But if you like dive into what these people actually do, like moment by moment on a daily basis, your mind becomes blown.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's kind of, and I feel like The Office doesn't even, like, there's this whole specter of, they just kind of like deal in paper, but I wish they went into a little bit more
Oh,
of
like what
and-
paper is used for.
Yeah, and they're not a copy shop really. They're like a paper distribution
Right, but
company.
it's so funny, yeah.
But
Right.
yeah, but
The world
I
runs on
wish
paper.
it's such an amazing world, the copy shop. So that's been a really fun part of diving into this.
So I grew up, my dad was in the printing industry.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, so we used to go to the big printers, and I worked in the industry for a while. It's like in the graphic arts and advertising industry, but it was so cool to see like how a photo comes together.
Yeah.
Like, just a giant printer. Yeah, so we should, but yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
so
very
we've been digging, we've dug a little bit of a hole here, and we're like weighing in on the giant chasm of artificial intelligence in the modern world. And so I wanted to just provide a glimmer of hope for people,
Yeah.
We like to end on positive.
Yeah, and so I feel like this is hope right here. Like there is no artificial intelligence involved in this at all.
Oh,
and
it's pure. It's organically made.
Yeah.
I don't know. I consume pesticides sometimes, so I don't know if you can say that. but I do, and it is, like I said, it's extremely easy to make a book, and
But extremely hard to write a good one.
Yeah, it's
So
hard to
don't
write a
force
good one,
yeah.
but go home and put glue on the edge of the book that you want to create and give it to the world. And if you want help, go to my website and we can figure out how to help you. But the way
What's your website again?
arrow-publishing.com. The monster of the publishing world and the people that feed us the media that we have complete power over them. You can put your phone down and you can completely ignore it, and you can purchase books that are made in the wholehearted, holy human manner that we have here, and that's the path for the
That'll
future.
save us.
Yeah, and and it's easy, and we can all do it at home, and we don't need to walk into the belly of the beast. We can stand outside of the beast.
Wake up, sheeple. Wake up.
Wake up, sheeple.
Wake up. Wake up, sheeple.
Wake up, glue. Just
Wake up.
use Elmer's glue. It doesn't matter, like
Or
it's
rubber
fine.
cement.
Yeah.
That
Rubber
works too.
cement.
I don't know if that works well.
Spit on it.
No,
I
but
don't think.
Spit isn't sticky enough. I don't know if we need to get into the
All
science
right.
of
On
that
that
yet.
note, let's.
all right. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for visiting. We enjoyed this immensely. You're such a talented and amazing person,
you.
and we wish you the best of luck. So, people, it's Ordinary Time Go out there. We're going to post the link. Please purchase this book, buy it, read it, let us know how you like it. And if you want your own book published, we have a source for you. So thank you so much, Austin, for coming today. It was
Thanks for
wonderful.
having me. I've
Bye,
had a
guys.
great
Awesome,
time.
dude.
Yes, we're going to
This
show
is
the
really
video of how to make your own book. So please stay tuned for that. Thanks for listening and
Bye.
watching. Bye.
Hello, I'm Austin Rowlader. This is my book binding machine. And I'm going to show you how to bind a book, or at least how I do it. This is how the book comes to me. I just bought my own printer, so very soon I'll be just printing these off like, standard Joe Blow in an office everywhere in America. That'll be me printing off my book. They're on an 8.5 by 11 sheet that gets cut into quarters. For the economics part of it, I can sell a lot more books, or make a lot more books for a lot less that way. And I do 4 of these. Oh, I forgot this part here. This part takes the longest, and I'm always trying to make it go a little bit faster, and I have this experimental thing going on in my shop right now where this is basically tipped up, and I'm inserting the paper downward.
So you're like lining everything up right now?
Yeah, I'm lining everything up. The most
Okay.
important thing is that I bind the correct edge, so that you don't. I've done it before, and you read them backwards,
Yeah.
or just whatever. So I've messed up hundreds of them. I don't really mess them up anymore, unless I'm in a rush. But okay, so here we go. Take these out. Now this kind of sandwiches on there, and I go through and get these edges as straight as I can with my invisible ruler here. Just a few little taps. They don't have to be perfect, but the closer they are to flush, the better. Bite them all down. I have 3 of these at home, so I can make 24 at a time.
Oh, wow.
And at least go through this phase of it, 24 at a time.
How long does it take to do?
To do one from the beginning to the end takes about 6 minutes.
Oh, wow. It's like ready to go in 6 minutes?
Well, so it's like first I have to do this, and then I have to let the glue dry, and then I have to do, the next part, and that has to dry. So if you time it out, the total time that I'm doing the book is about 6 minutes. But it takes a day to dry.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, but yeah, I plan on about 6 minutes a book. At least that's how I do the economies in my head. So this is just the first layer of glue here. I normally do 2 layers of this, so I'll let this dry, and then it'll, once it's dry, I'll put another layer on. But then what you end up with after the 2 layers is this.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So this now is the glued up sections.
Okay.
There's a hair in there. So he gets free hair. Not even going to charge him for that. And so what we have next, this is called the mull. And it's a kind of a reinforcement fabric.
Oh, wow.
It's actually, I have a 1-year-old son, and we had him in cloth diapers, and they sell this. It's a bamboo fabric they sell as like a diaper liner
Oh,
for
wow.
babies, and it's just like the strongest stuff on the planet. So I've used it to bind my books. So I put a little glue on the edge here, and then apply the mull over it. Commercial bookbinding operation does not do the mull. Basically, what their machine does, all the paperback books that you find in a library are glued together in the same way. They mill the edge. So they take like
a router?
A router, and basically mill that down. They heat up the glue. They take the cover, they glue the edge, they take the cover, put them together, and then you have a book. And then they have a 3-blade cutter that slices all 3 edges.
So, wow. Okay.
And there you have it. So mine, though, I don't want to rely just on the glue. So I use this mull to help with the process of holding all of the pages together along with the cover.
So then you're gluing on the outside of it.
Yeah, I do a little layer of glue on the outside. Because, I mean, literally, it's just glue. Like, all the book is paper and glue. It's not this crazy, like, oh, we need to get a machine. We need to... No,
I feel like I've seen some that are like stitched. Is that a thing?
Yeah, there are stitched. Yeah, that's for hardcover stuff.
Okay.
So this is what happens. This is the first step of the process, basically.
Okay.
And so I let this dry, normally overnight. But what you end up with is this.
Oh, wow.
Regular old book. And so this is the most fun part for me. To get, that's why I would do that. So to get the cover on, clamp this.
Oh, this is sweet.
I'm gonna have to do it this way. You've got to pay very close attention to which side everything's on, because I've glued them up every way you can glue up a book wrong. I've done it that way many times. I don't really do it too much like that anymore. So now I've got to get a cover. So here's how the covers come to me. They're in a full sheet, but I cut them to size. And then the first thing is I match up the spine of the book with the spine of the cover.
Oh, and you like fold it.
Yep.
Okay, so you kind of like get like a pre-fold kind of like line.
Yeah, I did like get a little bit more machinist about it, and I would fold them beforehand, but there's some variation.
Yeah, they're all a little different.
Yeah, so
I got it.
It didn't really work out, so I just do them one at a time. And so that's gonna work. I'm gonna move these over here, and then I've got to grab this wood block real quick. This wood block, I wish I had something fancier, but I was in my shop. I needed something that was the exact size as this, and this was the exact size. And so I don't question things like that. Okay, this is the one. I'm not gonna make some very spiffy thing. I'm just gonna use what's sitting in front of me. So I glue the cover like this. This makes it, if I didn't have this wood block, I would just be gluing messing up a surface basically, and the next cover that I put on would be covered in the glue from the previous
that makes
one.
sense.
Yeah, so there, get a nice layer in the spine there, and then I kind of run it down both sides. Okay. There we go.
And you line them up.
Line them up. Seal them in. Gotta have clean hands. A lot of them have, honestly, just fingerprints on them, you know?
Yeah.
A nice healthy whack to get the spines to line up. And then I kind of like make sure everything is glued in. And then these are dual purpose. They also stand up like this. And so what I do when I'm binding them is get that down in there, push this in like this, and then continually push the spines together. And then the next one will come in, and I'll put it here, and I'll push that one down, and push the previous ones down. And I work the whole thing until I've got a big pile of them. And then I clamp them all together and let them sit overnight. And what you end up with the next day is this. So you can see how the cover is slightly bigger. Because if I put the cover on slightly wrong, you can end up with a cover kind of cuts here, and you don't have, it's not a nice thing.
Okay, and then you trim it.
So then I go through everyone and trim them. I'm actually experimenting right now with getting rid of the trimming phase. I like trimming them. It's something I can do while my 1-year-old's running around to keep my sanity, make me feel like I'm productive in the world, not just like staying at home with a little baby. And so I like to trim them, but I have this daydream that I can't ignore where somebody orders 10,000 of them. And I'm sitting here doing this 10,000 times. No. So I'm working to not have to do this anymore. But for right now, I do. So then you have this, and then the final step, my stamp, hand bound.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
And then and then I've got, the final step, you have to approve it with my red pen.
QA, you gotta.
There we go.
That's awesome.
You have a book.
Very cool.
Regular old book.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Hold it up. Hold it up better. There you go. Ordinary
Ordinary
time.
time.